And we're live. We can start.
What is up, team? And welcome back to another episode of the Technical Foul Podcast. You're joined today by the three of us. I'm Jack Anderson. To my right is JP Pusilowski. And to my left is Sanders Oakley. How are we doing today, boys?
Doing great. Dressed up a little bit. I'm usually in my joggers and
Sure.
Birkenstocks. Today I went jeans and tennis shoes. So now I can kind of cross my legs without feeling like my dogs are out. A little bit more professional and still very, very casual. I'm not going to use the word dressed up because I'm not dressed up. But I am a hoodie, joggers, hoodie and shorts, T-shirt kind of guy. My work, I get to do that when I work because when I use a camera, I'm sprinting around and everything. So like I don't have to wear khakis and a pullover like I did when I was an intern.
Yeah.
I literally wear like a dry fit polo and joggers or dry fit and shorts. So this for me is dressed up. So I thought I'd class up the joint a little bit. That's the goal. Class it up a little bit today. Tennis shoes as opposed to Birkenstocks, jeans, a nice T-shirt, no polo. Maybe I'll break it up.
Slowly work your way up.
Yeah, exactly.
Baby steps,
and then come draft night, I'll be in a full suit.
Naturally.
Maybe a tuxedo. I'm ready for draft night. I was doing my doing the prep for the Tennessee primer I'm doing today, and they are going to be a fun team to talk about drafting. And we can get into why later. I don't want to spoil too much, but I had a lot of fun with their draft, picking number 4 overall. So we'll see where that ends up, and we'll have a lot of conversations about them. We'll have a lot of conversations about all 7 of these teams today.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, we're going to do Offseason Primers for 7 teams, the AFC South and then the NFC South minus the Saints, which we've already done. Because of JP, it's JP's team. And speaking of JP, how are you, JP?
I'm doing good.
Glad to hear it. It's been a fun, 2 days in the sports world, just with the NBA trade deadline going on. I know you're not really an NBA guy, Sanders.
I'm trying to. It's like vegetables. I know I need to, and so I'm trying to force myself to consume it. But it's a process.
We've just gotten really good content, some big trades, some funny names have been traded, some stupid trades, some trading a bad player for another bad player to pretend that you have a chance, stuff like that. Dennis Schroeder maybe well on his way to setting the record for most teams played for. Was he the player that said that getting traded is like slavery? I'm pretty sure he made that quote last trade deadline.
I don't remember that quote.
I no idea.
Almost positive that was him, and if it wasn't, I apologize, Dennis, for hating. But he did end up getting traded again, stuff like that. It's always great, and every year everyone's like, man, this is just not a good trade deadline. It's going to be boring, and then it always delivers.
It's like modern day slavery at the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay.
Everyone can decide where you're going, even if you have a contract at the end of the day. If they say you're not coming to work tomorrow, you're going over there, they can decide that.
Yeah. Chris Paul was going to get, his farewell tour in LA this season, and then they, send him home, and then they ship him off to Toronto, which is just really funny. But then Toronto's probably going to buy him out, so then have to go to Toronto.
Yeah, that is the weird thing. I remember my mom, when I was little, I was thinking actually about going into sports law. I was talking about, the contract situation. It is weird that sports is, the only career where people just control basically your entire lives. They tell you what city you live in. And it's, a non-negotiable.
Yeah, unless you have a no-trade clause.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, and maybe there are some business, I guess
James
especially
Harden
construction. In construction, your bosses can send you around and stuff. So maybe there's some comparison there, but it's still, I feel pretty unprecedented as far as you just kind of have to do whatever you're told. Go work for whoever they tell you to, right? You don't get to decide who you work for. Your coach is your coach. Your boss is your boss. But
yeah, the glaring difference I think Dennis Schroeder is missing here with his comparison is there was no compensation in a slave's contract, and Dennis Schroeder's making millions of dollars. So maybe he should just stop complaining. I do get it sucks to have to move around. He's now been he's on his 11th different team or something like that. But yeah, just a wild comparison. James Harden's very good at getting sent where he wants to go. I mean, he literally just I went out.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease,
they
right?
move him on. His 5th team in 6 years.
I saw he's already made a trade request to get out of.
Shout out NBA Centel.
Yeah, NBA Centel said that wherever he is now, he's already made his request to get out.
Yeah, but no, that's what I've been doing the past couple of days. It's just like following that, listening to podcasts, people's reactions about it. I was really hyped for Spurs Thunder, the final edition last night, and then Thunder rested their entire starting five because they didn't want the smoke, obviously, and so we beat them. Did we have to go to crunch time against the Thunder's B team? What is it, like the Oklahoma City Blue or something like that, whatever their G League team is, possibly. But we got the job done.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
But I think we can hop into these primers if y'all are ready.
Yeah, I am.
Actually, I'm gonna scratch that real quick.
Oh boy.
Any final Super Bowl thoughts, updates y'all want to give? I personally don't have any, but I just like the floor is y'all's. Any new news y'all have seen?
Drake May was taken fully off the injury report.
Huge.
So he has no shoulder discomfort or anything.
I love the subtle quotation marks you put around no there.
Nick Eamon-Wari hurt his ankle yesterday in practice while defending a pass at the end of practice, was seen limping into the hotel. And then today, for more media, he was limping slightly less. Mike McDonald expects him to play. He's their talented rookie out of South Carolina who's played slot corner, nickel, and sub linebacker. Been compared to like Cam Chancellor, which I need him to play. But him hurting his ankle may end up helping me because he'll get mentioned earlier in the broadcast. And I made a bet that Cam Chancellor would be the first Legion of Boom member mentioned by name on the broadcast. So hopefully he's mentioned
pretty good
near
odds
the
on
top. Plus 400, 4-1.
I'm assuming, was Richard Sherman the favorite?
Richard Sherman's the favorite, then Earl Thomas.
Yep.
Yeah.
One thing to note is, like, it's the end of the year, and so pretty much everybody is banged up. Even that Seattle team that lost to New England, Earl Thomas had dislocated his shoulder 2 weeks prior. Richard Sherman was dealing with an issue with his shoulder as well, where he couldn't raise his arm above his head.
That was me at Angle Ball on Saturday.
Yeah, so it's the end of the year, and everyone's dealing with injuries. But those are like the 2 big injury updates we've gotten so far.
Any big Pro Bowl takeaways? I saw people doing some film analysis for Shedeur Sanders and his 2 interceptions.
Well, some Ole Miss fan was tearing apart Dak Prescott because we posted his touchdown in the Pro Bowl, and he said that all he did was choke or whatnot, and then I'll pull it up because I ended up responding to him on Twitter.
So it's really easy to make a Pro Bowl. We've established this like
Correct.
It's a joke. So what does it say? Like, when's the last Ole Miss quarterback to make a Pro Bowl?
It'd be Eli Manning.
Eli Manning,
Yeah.
Without question. Maybe Jackson Dart has that in his future, given how
I
far
expect
the
he
Pro
does.
Bowl
Do we think that's
has
his ceiling?
fallen.
Jackson Dart?
Yeah.
As
No.
a Pro Bowler, no.
Pro
Probably.
Bowl snaps is
No, that's not
Jackson
his
Dart's
ceiling.
ceiling.
No, I actually think he can be better.
Wow.
Depending.
Trying to give you opportunities to hate, and y'all just don't take it.
No, I thought he played.
Okay, sure. That guy sucks. Cool. There we go. Got our.
He's not elite, but
Have
he
you seen-
showed enough this year.
There's been kind of like Saints-Giants beef I've seen on Twitter.
Yes.
About like, Jackson Dart's better than Tyler Shuck.
Well, not offensive, but rookie of the year will be decided tonight.
Gotcha.
NFL honors is tonight.
Yeah,
so
MVP will be tonight.
But Tyler Shuck got the fan vote for rookie of the year, which shout out to him, and I'm repping him today. But Dart and then Shuck are most likely the guys fighting for rookie of the year, the actual award tonight.
Yeah.
So that's where the beef has come
Gotcha.
from. Is we played nobody,
and the Giants.
whatnot. But when Jackson Dart played us, he threw 4 interceptions. So that's where the beef has been. But we did have an Ole Miss fan with a Confederate flag as his profile pic, of course.
Naturally.
Responding to Mississippi State posting Dak Prescott throwing a touchdown on the Pro Bowl. John Deere said, that was his profile name, too bad he didn't do that last season, choked up, ... To which I responded, he was 3rd in the league in passing yards and 4th in the league in touchdowns. Given that in this clip he's throwing a touchdown for a lot of yards, it was a 30-yard touchdown, you're implying that he didn't throw for yards or touchdowns last season. And he said that they were pitiful because they were 7-10. Keep carrying the water, idiot. Was his response. So, yeah.
He cooked.
Unfortunately,
average
Dak
Twitter interaction.
can't play defense because this isn't basketball or
Yep.
baseball or soccer or really any sport, tennis.
Yeah.
Golf, you don't play defense, I guess. You play, I guess, defensive.
Yeah, like you have the lead, so you're not gonna maybe play your most aggressive golf.
That's what happened
that's
to
the same
Rory
thing in football.
McIlroy.
That's the same thing in football. So football and golf are basically the same sport.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
same level of difficulty, I'd argue personally. But that was, Dak got tore apart for throwing that Pro Bowl touchdown, apparently.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing it's better to throw interceptions then, because Shador was getting praised for his 2 interceptions, that they weren't his fault.
Yep.
And that the accuracy.
PFF would not have
threw.
graded them as turnover-worthy plays.
Oh, that's good.
I didn't actually see them, but that's what it sounds like.
The one, they definitely probably would have.
I need PFF grades for the Pro Bowl so bad.
Yeah, what is PFF doing?
Literally, they're on vacation. Like, what are we doing, guys?
I think they've been
It's bad.
prepping for
The
the Super Bowl.
only Pro Bowl content I saw was the Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, like, end-around flip touchdown. And then I saw Bijan Robinson, George Kittle, and Jordan Mailata singing with the guy from Pitch Perfect, the lead guy.
Which lead guy?
Not the one that has the relationship with Rebel Wilson,
Okay.
whatever that guy is.
Buffer.
Yes.
Or Bumper was his name.
Bumper, yeah.
In the movie.
Yeah.
I don't remember his real life.
Yeah. I don't either. But anyway, I saw the 4 of them singing a song from Pitch Perfect, except that Bijan Robinson was not singing. And, of course, Jordan Mailata was like...
Hey, you can't be good at everything.
Jordan Mailata can.
But then Jordan Mailata probably can't cook or something.
I bet he can.
Yeah, but he choked up in the playoffs, so Jordan did, sadly.
Choked up or choked?
Choked up.
As in cried?
As in that was the wording that John Deere used.
Yeah,
so.
choked up.
Oh, okay.
Choked up.
Anyway, that's the only thing I did see Micah Parsons on his scooter with his little like camera that he was like zooming around, taking videos of everything. That's pretty funny. But that's about it. That's all I saw from the Pro Bowl. No other game footage.
And no Super Bowl thoughts?
No Super Bowl thoughts.
Additional. You've given plenty already.
Yeah, no more Super Bowl thoughts.
We're gonna go and hop in these primers then, and we can just alphabetical order here.
Yeah, we've got them. I think it'll be. Yeah, we'll blend. We'll blend
it's
some.
a little spaced out in
It'll
order.
go.
It goes.
Actually,
me,
I
JP.
do 3 of the last 4.
Well, you can hop in after me. You can hop in after Carolina if you want.
Yeah,
and do one of yours.
We'll start you with the Falcons.
The Atlanta Falcons, man. Another classic Falcons season of one not finishing above 500 for the 8th straight year, and I'll get back to that later. Choked games, winning games against really good teams that you probably shouldn't win, just blowout losses against teams that even if like you maybe losing to them isn't bad, there's no reason like for example the Panthers should be blowing you out how they did, stuff like that, and that leads to them firing their head coach. And before I get into their new coaching hires, I'll start with the 2025 team MVP and the 2025 team unsung hero. Team MVP Bijan Robinson, the easiest one I've done so far, I'd argue. Well, I've done the Browns. I feel like that one was also very easy, so maybe I won't say easiest I've done so far.
I can't even remember what other teams we have done. I do feel like we've had some easy ones, but that one was
This is definitely one of the easier ones. I would argue the best running back in football. He's a joy to watch. Horns down, though. It's obligatory. I'm an A&M fan, but he's special, the bright spot of that team. And then my 2025 unsung, their defense honestly was pretty solid this past year. Their offense, outside of like the kind of star power, no one really performed that well, I'd argue. Kyle Pitts is a known name. He had a pretty solid season. Drake London was great. Everyone knows Drake London. I just mentioned Bijan Robinson. Defense, you had a lot of young players contribute, some rookies. But I gave it to Divine Diablo, linebacker. Had a good season. Held down the middle of that defense pretty well. Nothing like spectacular. But kind of a name that flew under the radar. I feel like the rookies really got most of the love there in terms of like Xavier Watts, James Pierce, Jalen Walker, guys like that. So I just wanted to give him a shout. Do you have any unsung?
I would have just said James Pierce, and
Sure.
to highlight the year that he had, and I don't think people really realized it, in which he had 10.5 sacks.
I think I'm too much on Falcons Twitter because I'm a Braves fan.
Yeah.
And so like I follow some Braves fans, and so I saw a ton about how good of a season he had. But he probably does deserve a shout. They got a lot of criticism for moving up and picking him. And it's turned out so far to work pretty well.
I don't know. I think that's up for debate. I think they'd rather potentially have this 13th pick in the draft.
I probably would rather have it, but considering how harsh I was on it when we recapped the draft, they at least got a really good player. Like they didn't trade up and because they traded up to get a guy that had character concerns, and you didn't know if it was going to work out. At least he worked out. Yeah, maybe the value wasn't there. With that being said, we can go and move on to the 2026 season. In this offseason, fired Raheem Morris, and then went and hired Kevin Stefanski, former Browns coach. They went and get him. Y'all's thoughts on the hire?
I mean, I think it was kind of it'll be viewed as a good hire, and I think on paper it should be viewed that way, given everything that occurred in Cleveland. At least right now, if we were to make a blame pie, we're making a pizza pie. 8 slices, 7 of the slices they're putting on the GM and the owner.
Sure.
Or maybe 6 of the slices, and the 7th slice they're putting on the fact that we're just the Cleveland Browns and we're cursed. 8th slice maybe then is Kevin Stefanski.
Sure.
Yeah.
But on top of that, he played a part in a lot of the moves offensively. He was a part of the Baker. I mean, for Baker to describe his relationship with Kevin as in we haven't talked in years, and essentially he's excited to play him twice a year so he can just rub it in his face. It feels like Kevin Stefanski was a part of the Baker Mayfield releasing, or at least letting him walk, and that's obviously missed as Baker's rejuvenated his career in Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
I do think I expect more of the same with him in Atlanta. Like, you talk to the 8 straight losing seasons. I don't expect them to have a winning season next year because they're just an incompetent franchise, and that's full hate, a lot of biased hate there.
Sure.
But they do not make the right moves. They don't have a quarterback of the future, and they were the team that 2 years ago spent all the money on Kirk Cousins, then drafted Michael Penix at 8. Now Penix is going to come off an ACL injury, and Kirk Cousins is, he's 38, if I'm not mistaken.
A lot of people expect him to be released as well.
Absolutely. So they don't have an answer at quarterback, and that's they haven't had an answer since Matt Ryan left.
They brought Matt Ryan back.
And so what does that kind of sound like? That sounds like the Cleveland Browns. They didn't have an answer at quarterback, and that really significantly hindered them. They have great weapons in Bajan and Drake London and Kyle Pitts with the year he had, but Kyle Pitts had that year, and now he's going to get paid because of that year. Well, the numbers say he's due to have one of his other years instead of the year he had this year, I would argue personally. So I don't expect it to be like a home run hire. Where I was fearful in their coaching search was what if they were to get the known commodities in Mike Tomlin or John Harbaugh, and they were able to become, what Mike Vrabel did this year.
Yeah.
And a guy that was casted away by his franchise for whatever reason. Harbaugh and Tomlin, it was because they hadn't won in a while. Vrabel was for who knows what reason. They had shown success in the past and then could take them forward from there. I don't know if Stefanski will be that for them. But I will say it is a lot better than Raheem Morris.
Almost anything is a lot better than Raheem Morris. I'm fine with the hire. He's not like the best name, but where they were in the pecking order of open jobs, I think they got a guy that's on par with where they were in that pecking order. And then in terms of his coordinator moves, keep Jeff Ulbrich in house, the DC, and then brings over Tommy Rees from the Browns, who's a young OC, only had 1 year at the Browns, being their offensive coordinator. He was there for a couple years. And it's not like he had good toys or like weapons to work with. So it's kind of to be determined on if he's a good OC or not. I guess we're about to find out. But that's what they did on the coaching side of things in terms of their draft situation. They have no first-round pick, as we established. They traded it last year to the Rams to trade up and get James Pierce. James Pierce ended up being a fine player, but they didn't really win very many games, so they would be picking at 13th, like JP said, so maybe not quite worth it. Not up for me to decide. It's at this point like that's water under the bridge. This is what we're trying to look ahead here, I guess is what I'm saying. So their first pick is 48th overall. A couple of needs. They could use some interior defensive line help. Maybe like a Lee Hunter from Texas Tech. Dominique Orange from Iowa State could be there. Dante Corleone, the Godfather, from Cincinnati, potentially at that spot, something like that. I've also toyed with the idea of receiver here, depending on if there's someone they love. So they have Drake London.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if they're going to bring back Kyle Pitts, he's a receiving threat. Like he operates kind of in the same sphere as a wide receiver. He had a big year, but he's going to have to get paid. Darnell Mooney is supposed to be kind of the wide receiver too, but he had under 500 yards last season. Just has not really produced how they'd expect. He only has one more year on his deal. So if they feel like they really want to surround Penix with weapons, or whoever ends up being the QB with weapons, maybe they look wide receiver here. They could also maybe go and look to get another cornerback 2, Keontae Scott, somebody like that here. What do y'all think they'll do with their first pick? It's weird because they don't have a first-round draft pick, so a lot of it will probably dictate how the board falls and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's 48, right?
Yes.
I was reading that right. Cool. I'm just looking through. That's I feel like a bad spot to get wide receiver, because at that point you're talking about like a Jeremy Bernard, right? Or maybe you're reaching on Elijah Surratt, who right now PFF has ranked as the 66th best prospect. So I feel like 48 is not a great spot.
It all depends on how they look at players.
Correct.
And how much big of a need they deem it to be. Because I agree, it maybe isn't the best spot, and you're not going to get somebody that's like a guaranteed difference maker. So at that point, is it really worth it in the second round, or do you wait?
I mean, obviously, they would not go edge rusher. And their offensive line, it was good 2 years ago. Was it good again this year?
Well, they had the injuries.
Okay.
I mean, they lost their right tackle. Had a season-ending injury, I think in preseason, or maybe like very early in the season.
Okay.
But I think it's still in pretty good shape.
And then you're not going to go. They probably wouldn't go cornerback. I know they've still got Terrell there, right? AJ Terrell there.
Yes.
Yeah, they've been rumored to be looking to lock down the other side of the field, find a cornerback too, which is why I mentioned Keontae Scott.
Yeah.
Colton Hood from Tennessee could be an option at this spot.
Was Pons not a safety?
No, he's a corner, but he
Okay.
played a lot of like nickel and stuff. I mean, he's 5'9",
Okay.
so
okay.
he just kind of he moved around a little bit, but.
Yeah, I think secondary could be a good move. I wouldn't hate that at all to go corner there, and do that to address the other side, because you just invested on the defensive line. I think that you should feel good about the offensive line if it is going to get back to the form it was 2 years ago when you felt good about it coming into this year. You're good at running back. I think you can you've got Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and then Darnell Mooney, who he had a down year this year, but the quarterback situation with Penix getting hurt was not ideal. I think you can convince yourself that you have the weapons in that room necessary. And so then you look to the other side of the ball, and I think secondary is a good place to go. So I don't hate corner there.
Thoughts?
I would draft defense.
Yeah.
They already showed last year that they can find. Now, both were first rounders, and first rounders are a lot easier to pick, but they found pieces to add to this defense and make it younger. And so I think they would just draft best available defensively, even if it was another edge rusher.
There's no way they would
have
spend their top 2 picks and then their third pick this year all on edge rusher.
Why not? Jalen Walker has shown ability to play outside linebacker or Mike linebacker for them, and if you went to a 3-4 system, that would work plenty fine. He's also, like I said, he's played Mike before. I think James Pierce has enough physical ability to play linebacker as well. So I wouldn't hate the move whatsoever, even if it's an edge defender. I wouldn't hate it. Why? There's no reason to not have more pass rushers, and so if one's there, take them. You have teams like Seattle. Seattle didn't have one pass rusher. They have 5, 6 guys who get after the quarterback, and Nwosu and DeMarcus Lawrence and Leonard Williams in the middle. They have plenty of pieces to go to, so I wouldn't hate it. I think you would go defense because you're going to pay Kyle Pitts already, more than likely. I would assume they do.
I think
you have
bring it back.
You have a 3-tiered weapon on the offensive side of the ball, and Bijan, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts. Figure out your quarterback. I would add another defensive piece and try to get better there defensively.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I think if I had my way, I would find they'd take an interior defensive lineman, a Lee Hunter, like I said, a Dante Corleone, somebody of that ilk. I would love that personally.
The common phrase is it's cliche, but defense wins championships, and it 100% was shown this postseason with the teams that were there at the end, and the teams that made the postseason in general. Jacksonville was a top 10 defense. The Chargers were a top 10 defense. Houston, of course, Seattle, Denver were 3 of the best teams in the league. I would go after defense. So much of the NFC still kind of is we want to have the best roster and not necessarily the best quarterback. The AFC still seems to be driven as the more have the best quarterback. Even with Drake May being his second year, he's might be the MVP tonight. We'll find out.
Yeah.
So in the NFC, it's all about roster, and you see Seattle's roster. It's a elite roster up and down the board. I think you'd try to add to your roster more so than try to add to your offense. So go defense for me personally.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I'm disappointed about is that they don't have a first round pick, and we can't bring in our resident Falcons fan on draft night.
No
maybe
Thomas
we
this
can maybe
year.
we get him like in the 5 minutes before the draft starts and just reflect on last year's pick, because you spent this year's pick last year. How are you feeling now that you've got a year under the belt? Honestly, maybe that's to the Falcons' advantage. The Falcon fans' advantage. They already know what this year's pick is.
That's the spin zone they'll give themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the other way they can add to this team is obviously free agency. Cap situation, they have $28 million in cap space, which is honestly pretty solid. Now, we've already talked about we expect a large portion of that to go right back to Kyle Pitts because he's expected to get a pretty hefty payday. Now, they could release Kirk Cousins, make some money back. Obviously, there's restructuring they can do. But realistically, it's probably going to be bringing back Kyle Pitts, some depth pieces in terms of, defensive linemen. Maybe you don't draft a defensive lineman in the second round like I want, and you go sign somebody to fill that role. You go get another cornerback. You go snag a linebacker or something like that. I don't see them being anyone that like a team that makes crazy splashy moves in free agency personally. But yeah, any thoughts there? Or can I keep it rolling?
I'd re-sign Kyle Pitts.
Sure.
I think the big problem with it, of course, is the way he played this year. The price tag is going to be up there, which kind of sucks. But he's still very young. I mean, that was one of his biggest. That was one of the traits of him as a draft prospect.
Yeah.
He was just barely 21 when he was coming into the NFL, and so he's sitting here at 25 still, with many years ahead of him. And he just had his best year. So I think that's the priority. And then the Kirk Cousins contract situation. If you're going to release him, do it when you can save the most money and just eat the cap, or look to potentially trade him. Because I do think he's got some trade value, and you can get a 5th round pick, and that could help.
It's better than releasing him and cutting him. So
one thing about draft picks is it's not just you. Sometimes you want to have some late round picks or just picks in general because it's better. It can be better than free agency because when you pick a guy in the 5th round, you get the guy on a 4-year, $1.3 million contract each of the 4 years, rather than having to sign a free agent. And some of the cheapest free agents, if they're going to get a cheap contract, they want to sign for just 1 year. So if they pop and they can get another contract the next year for 2, their prices are $3 million, $4 million every single year that you sign them for. So having draft picks is a good thing to have. It's not a bad problem whatsoever.
And there are guys in those 5th and 6th rounds, and it's more of a volume shooting situation than some GMs just identify talent and hit 100% or 80%. Most guys aren't going to hit that at that high rate.
Sure.
And so if you have 2 5th rounds as opposed to 1 5th round, you just doubled your chances of hitting on a guy in the 5th round. So
sure.
Yep. Well, then, last thing, 2026 goal. We've already talked about 8 straight losing seasons. I think their goal should be to end that streak. You were right on the doorstep this past year. And then, obviously it didn't happen, but so theoretically it should not be that unrealistic of a goal to win one more game, to go from 8-9 to 9-8. You are going to figure out quarterback situation. If you release Kirk Cousins, maybe it is a Malik Willis like they want, or maybe Michael Penix is back and healthy and ready to roll pretty quickly into the season. But that is going to be a large kind of puzzle piece in terms of them hitting that goal. But y'all think that's like a fair goal for them to have?
No.
No.
I think it's too tall of a task. Their schedule is really, really tough next year. They, in classic Falcons fashion, caught the year where finishing third in the division actually hurt the crap out of them because the 3 third-place teams they play are the Kansas City Chiefs, the San Francisco 49ers, and your Commanders, who we all expect them to all rebound next year. And San Francisco is 1 game from the 1 seed. So great draw there. On top of that, they have to play every NFC South team does, but they have to play the NFC North. So Bears, Lions, Vikings, Packers. That was the best division in football from a win record perspective, or right there with the NFC West. And then still they will play the AFC North as well. So Ravens, Bengals. I'm going to be, I think if anything, like early realistic goal is figure out what quarterback is going to be in terms of what are you going to decide next offseason. Is Penix the guy? So whenever he comes back, play.
If they take his 5th-year contract, it'd be at the end of this season.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to know what they're going to do about that.
Yeah, they play him with Stefanski. Does Stefanski like him? If no, are we going for a free agent next year or drafting somebody? I do think they have the pieces enough to be competitive, and no Falcons team is not going to win games they're never supposed to, like they did this year. You know, beating the Los Angeles Rams and beating the Buffalo Bills both on Monday Night Football. But this is, I think you need to figure out quarterback because the last 4 years, their leading passers the last 4 years, Michael Penix, Kirk Cousins, Desmond Ridder, Marcus Mariota. And then before that was Matt Ryan. So they need to find out who their quarterback is going to be in the future. That might be still Penix. I still believe in him, and he had some bright moments. Last year, he just unfortunately tore his ACL again. He had another knee injury. That's hard to deal with. So I think that's more so the realistic goal is figure that out. I think they will convince themselves that they can win the division because the team that won the division finished 8-10 this year as their total record and 8-9 in the regular season. So I think that'll be like a delusional goal. But they have a stupid tough schedule next year, and a stupid tough home schedule as well. Like, you're supposed to get your wins at home, and you host the Chiefs, you host the Niners, you host the Bears, you host the Lions, you host Lamar Jackson, you host Joe Burrow, which is great for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a Falcons season ticket holder next year. So I can't wait to go to some of those games and then probably make all of my money back as well, selling some of these tickets for Lamar, Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Caleb Williams, all those teams.
That's just tough because those are the ones you're going to want to go to.
I'm going to the Saints game. I know that for sure, and then I'll probably pick 2 or 3 more. But I don't think I can, justify making the trip 8 out of 16 weekends. Or they play 9 home games.
For sure.
But it'll be easy to sell
you
tickets and get the money back.
Pass on the 49ers game.
I'm passing on that in the Chiefs game more than likely.
Really?
I don't want to see Mahomes.
That's fair. That's fair. I think I would agree with that. I would much rather see Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I enjoyed my Mahomes experience.
I think right now the top of my list would be the Saints, of course. I'll be at that game probably regardless. And then Caleb Williams.
Well, you've seen a Saints game. You've seen Tyler Shuck in person already, right?
I haven't.
Really?
No.
Cool. That'll be big for you.
I did not go to the Saints game at the end of the year this year. And then I think Chicago with Caleb Williams is pretty high on that list.
Yeah.
But do you agree with his realistic goal? Back on track.
I would say I think it is a realistic goal. I think that they could very easily fall short of it. I don't think it's unattainable.
That is what their goal is in-house.
They're in-house. They want to be above 500. Because you play in the division that just put a team that was below 500 in the playoffs. I think that you want that to be your goal. And maybe the Falcons are like us, and they don't like Bryce Young, and they think that he's not going to, be able to win the NFC South next year. And maybe they don't, and they think that the Buccaneers are too old. And maybe, I think that maybe they're telling themselves, oh, well, this is our opportunity, to a phoenix from the ashes to go from third to first. So yeah, I think I think that's their in-house goal, and I think it's a goal that makes sense because like you want to set goals that like you have to work hard for. I feel like the quarterback thing is gonna hopefully it just happens like kind of organically, right? Because you either play like Penix comes back and he's healthy and he plays well with Stefanski, or he doesn't. And then Kirk Cousins is still around, or he those are things that they need to do. But I feel like that shouldn't be like their goal because like they aren't one of those teams where I feel like their entire season should be around figuring out quarterback because they have other people in that roster that are in like positions to succeed.
I mean, I just think if their goal is to like go above 500 or win the division, naturally for them to reach that goal, the QB position is going to figure itself out. They kind of go hand in hand. But yeah, it's definitely not that being their goal. It is them like hoping for like a 80th percentile season outcome, 85th percentile season outcome.
I think if there was another goal, it'd be how can we get rid of the unbelievable hot and cold.
Consistency is something I was going to mention as well.
It is to get blown out by the Panthers and blown out by Tua and the Dolphins, and it's 6-all with the team that I think is going to win the Super Bowl on Sunday at home, and you give up 31 points in the second half. To the reason you aren't hosting a first-round playoff game and don't have a winning record is because you lost to the New York Jets.
Gosh, I forgot they lost to the Jets.
That was the reason they win that game. They win the division.
Yeah,
because they're 9-8, and the other two teams are 8-9. To lose back-to-back weeks in devastating fashion in overtime, once in Germany, then the following week to Bryce Young at home, to lose by a point to the team that also is playing in the Super Bowl on Sunday, the Patriots. But then couple it with winning 4 in a row at the end of the year for no reason. I guess it helps because you don't have your first-round pick, but winning 4 in a row and beating the Rams and Bills both on Monday Night Football, and after both of those games, because they're standalone primetime games, people are saying, oh, the Falcons could be a problem. No, they can't, because they get in their own way.
I was going to say they can be a problem. They're just a problem to themselves.
Yeah.
That would be something if I was a Falcons fan, and even just for my own buddy's sake, I wouldn't wish this kind of hot and cold season, which is now it's been that way for 4 years in a row, on anyone, because it's so brutal to watch.
My last goal is trade back up into the first round so we can get our Falcons fan on the phone.
That would be electric.
Trade back into like pick 30, 31 or something. I don't know. Just sneak back in there.
Spontaneous.
Patriots don't need their first round pick. Patriots they feel like a second and third round kind of team anyway. I feel like that's where they really do their best work. So yeah, trade back up into that first round and go get somebody so we can get a Falcons fan on the phone.
Well, let's move on.
Yep.
The Panthers are next.
Oh boy.
Can't wait for JP to deliver this in his Saints
should I just
gear
turn my mic
see
off
the
and just
ire it draws from some Panthers fans in future comment sections.
Yeah. Should we do?
How do we clip all of these into TikToks?
Should
every single word I say?
Should we go ahead and like start the preview with like a preface for Panthers fans that we're not here for JP's historic uptake from last offseason. Well, maybe you'll handle that in your offseason primer. So I'll let you do your thing.
It might return. We'll see.
Oh,
not an easy schedule next year because they won the division. But we'll get into that at some point.
I mean, the Bryce Young regression away.
The
from
scary thing is,
watch.
I don't even. I genuinely would not be surprised if he picked them to go 0-17 again.
This is the most words I've put into notes for a primer so far. So
how many words are we at?
I didn't do the count. It's probably at least 1,000 though.
Oh gosh.
For this year, of course, Carolina won the division. They won the division only because of a tiebreaker scenario, the third tiebreaker available because it was a 3-way tie at 8-9 with them, Tampa Bay and the Atlanta Falcons. Because they had beaten Tampa Bay once at home and then had swept the Atlanta Falcons both in dramatic fashion, a 30-0 blowout of them, and then an overtime victory. In the second matchup, they hosted a first-round game. They hosted the Los Angeles Rams, and to their credit, they played them very close again, losing by just 3 points. Stafford had to complete an incredible comeback drive. Puka Nacua had to punch the ball out of the hands of a Carolina DB Otherwise, it would have been intercepted, and the game's more than likely over. A lot of the feeling of this season was that this was a great step in the right direction for Carolina, that this was a kind of a dramatic improvement in the team. And I think if one thing to give them credit, and I've given them credit a few times already in this, is that they have rejuvenated that fan base. They've gone from a team and a stadium that would sell $4 tickets just to get people in the stands to a sold-out stadium that was rocking and a home field advantage in the playoffs. They also were 5-4 this year at home, winning some big games at home, like beating Los Angeles Rams. For this year, I thought for MVP, I went with just 2 defenders, and that is because their offense was point-blank terrible. They were 27th in points per game, 5th worst, and 27th in yards per game, 5th worst as an offense. But defensively, they went from one of the worst defenses of all time last year, statistically one of the worst points per game defenses ever, and they improved from last to 15th this year as a defense. And so a lot of credit to their defense, and a lot of their wins this year came because of their defense, giving them a close enough game that allowed Bryce Young to have a game-winning drive. J.C. Horn and Michael Jackson were my 2 MVPs. J.C. Horn had 5 picks, Jackson 4 picks. Horn had 8 pass defenses. Michael Jackson had a league-best 19 pass defenses. And, of course, J.C. Horn was a Pro Bowler. If there were, like, kind of offensive mentions, you could give maybe Tet McMillan, Rico Dowdle, 1,000-yard receiver, 1,000-yard rusher. But I would, for Bryce Young, he started 16 regular season games. He barely threw for 3,000 yards. Of the quarterbacks to start 16 games or more, he was dead last in passing yards. The next closest was Cam Ward, the number 1 pick rookie. 6 quarterbacks started less games than Bryce this year and still threw for more yards than Bryce. Bryce was 30th in passing yards per game, 30th in passer rating, 35th, which there are only 32 NFL teams, by the way, in yards per completion, and 24th in completion percentage. The one credit I will give to Bryce, and I already gave it to him, was the game-winning drives. He was second best in the league, tied with Caleb Williams with 6 game-winning drives this year, 1 short of Bo Nix. But that offense was really, really bad. Do you guys have an MVP, though, that you would have mentioned outside of J.C. Horn and Michael Jackson?
J.C. Horn would have been my pick, so.
I think Rico Dowdle does, like you said, he deserved that mention just because it came into the season, and we thought it was going to be Chuba Hubbard as RB1, and then
top 10 running back in the league, supposedly.
Yeah, Chuba Hubbard,
yes.
we were told last offseason, was a top 10 running back in the league. We were also told J.C. Horn was a top 10 cornerback in the league, and we pushed back just because he hadn't played an entire season.
We knew the talent was there.
He played a full season and
yeah.
makes a Pro Bowl. Now you can, argue the value of making a Pro Bowl, but I'll give that to Panthers fans. J.C. Horn had a great season. And we were never arguing that he was not a good cornerback, merely that you have to be healthy and play entire seasons to be a top 10 guy. So I think Rico Dowdle is the guy I might give it to just because he was kind of from out of nowhere. Was this for the unknown MVP or for MVP?
MVP.
Okay.
Unknown, I would have done Trayvon Moehrig, who was 3rd on the team in tackles, 3 sacks and 14 tackles for loss as a safety. I thought he had a pretty good year for them, and he's kind of unknown. Do you guys even know that name?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. I think I've mentioned it a few times on the show, but you guys have an unsung hero.
I know way too much about the Panthers.
Yeah, fair.
Just due to how what's the word I'm looking for?
Our fan base.
Yeah,
they are
our
fans
fan
at the end
base,
of the day.
the narrative that for
Yeah, we'll call them fans. That's the nice thing.
I'm fine with that. I mean, it's just once again going back to the offensive side of the ball, it's really hard to find someone that deserves unsung hero. So that's fine.
Getting into this offseason for coaching changes, Ejiro Evero, their defensive coordinator, even interviewed for many head coaching jobs. Specifically, he was in the running for the Raiders job. Clint Kubiak, of course, got that. So he's going to remain on staff. Evero is. The Panthers had a much improved year defensively, as I mentioned. The year prior, they were one of the worst defenses of all time in terms of points per game, and they went from dead last to 15th. Offensively, however, they were a problem. They were 27th in points per game and 27th in yards per game, as mentioned. They were outscored by 92 points this year. That's the point differential, was negative 92, which includes a game where they shut out the Falcons 30-0. So if you just put that as a 17-16 victory, that right there is over 100 points in terms of point differential in the negative for a team that was in the postseason. I say all of that to say keeping Ejiro Evero is a good thing, and they, of course, should be glad that he returns as defensive coordinator. But they did not make, and I don't expect them to make any changes to the offense outside of promoting a new pass game coordinator, which they already did. Dave Canales, their head coach, he's a head coach that calls the offense, like a Ben Johnson, like a Matt LaFleur, like a Sean McVay. And I do think they've kind of stuck themselves in a really awkward spot because, for one, the team won the division, but they were also 8-10. That was their total record in 18 games. Dave Canales, for one, or for two, I should say, brought energy back to the city and the locker room, and they had belief there. Bryce Young talked about when he was on the Pat McAfee show earlier this week how when they lost the playoff game, it wasn't a, hey, hell of a season, guys, dabbing up in the locker room. It said, man, we feel like we should have won that game and we should still be playing, and we felt like we had Super Bowl aspirations. Whether that's crazy to you or not, they brought back that kind of winning attitude to their team, and that is a credit to Dave Canales. But, again, he calls the plays, and he had the 5th worst offense in points per game and yards per game. I think, personally, if you had true objective reasoning and logic, and I say that wearing a Saints jersey with a Saints jersey behind me as a Saints fan, I feel like it would make you queasy about the future of the Carolina Panthers with Dave Canales as the head coach and Bryce Young as the quarterback. That's not what they're feeling at all. They think the sky's the limit going forward. Multiple people saying as much as, oh, Bryce Young's going to make a return and have an excellent year next year. We haven't seen a single thing besides him being clutch as a reason to believe that.
Yeah, you've yet to list a stat that makes me think the sky's the limit.
6 game-winning drives, but who was second in the league in game-winning drives the last 2 years coming to this season? Geno Smith. So
dog.
Just like you don't want to be 30th in multiple categories as a quarterback. The defensive improvement's incredible, and they could obviously build off it. But you went just up to like a league average type defense.
Yeah.
You were negative in point differential, so I'm not going to belabor the point.
I do think they do. It is a testament to them that they went from 32nd to 15th.
Correct.
Like, that's a huge, huge jump, and maybe you could see the
Next,
jump
they'll
of the
go
top
from
10.
15th to negative 3rd. That's a big jump.
That is a big jump right
Huge
there.
jump.
That would probably put them in a really good spot to maybe make the postseason once again. But it's such a, like I said, it's an awkward spot where your head coach is calling the plays, but his offense has never been good. Now, it's only been 2 years with Carolina of him being the head coach. And last year they were 29th offensively in points per game and 24th in yards per game. They do, Bryce Young was not the quarterback he drafted. Dave Canales did not draft Bryce Young, but they picked up his 5th-year option, so they expect him to play next year and the following year. It's just with him bringing energy back to the locker room and bringing the team to the postseason, winning the division regardless of your record should be a statement because they were good in division outside of beating the Saints because they were terrible against New Orleans. I just think they're in a terrible spot for the future because they've trapped themselves into Dave Canales and Bryce Young, and I don't think either of those are the future whatsoever for me. As far as the draft goes, they have the 19th pick in the draft, which is unideal for a team that went 8-9 this year. 19th, because they made the postseason, they had to jump from roughly 13 all the way up to 19. That's 6 spots, and those are 6 really critical spots, as we have talked about the board already, and we will continue to, leading towards the draft. They got a clear need at wide receiver. Pet McMillan was an 1,000-yard receiver, but their second leading receiver had just 400 yards in Jalen Coker.
It's Tetaroa. We talked about last draft preview. He doesn't like being called Tet.
Okay.
Come on.
T-Mac.
We talked about T-Mac. I think was acceptable.
Well, yeah, that's what Bryce Young says he calls him. So.
But I remember 10 months ago we talked about this. He doesn't like being called Tet.
Okay.
So we had to memorize the Tetaroa McMillan pronunciation.
I look, you may just keep calling him Tet.
Wow. You're just going to blatantly disregard his wishes.
But I have good Kim with him, as he's on my keeper fantasy roster. Will continue to be.
So you're saying like Tet's like what his good friends call him, and you're going to call him Tet?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I see that.
Anyway, T-Mac was the leading receiver, and their second closest receiver had 600 yards less than him. And it wasn't like it was a JSN year where they had 18. He had 1,800 receiving yards. The next closest guy had 1,200. No, it was 1,400. So receivers clearly a need. Defensive line is a need. Their leading sacker was tied between Derek Brown and Nick Gigum, who both had 5 sacks this year. And Derek Brown is your defensive tackle, and Nick Scorton was a rookie. So that's not necessarily good that was where you were at a pass rush perspective. Of course, Brian Burns has been with the team for 2 years, and he was one of your elite pass rushers. Jadeveon Clowney was with the team 2 years ago. He went to Dallas this past year, had 7.5 sacks. So you need pass rusher. The problem is, I think it's a really tough spot to draft both of those positions, because if you look at that spot, I think being at 19, both those positions the best players may be gone. Like if Cassius Howell fell that far, maybe he's available. But like Keldrick Falk is being drafted above them. And of course, Reuben Bain and Arvell Reese and David Bailey are all long gone. At receiver, I think people are going to be really receiver happy, and so maybe like Denzel Boston fell that far, but I don't know. It's up for debate. So then the question is,
you're still not getting one of the tier 1 guys if it's Denzel Boston.
Yeah, exactly.
Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate, they're both off the board. Jordan Tyson's probably already off the board.
Yep.
He better be, especially if we hadn't drafted Jeremiah Love and Carnell Tate was already drafted in New Orleans. So it's tough for receiver and edge defender. So I don't know where you go unless you're like that high on Casey Concepcion, or one of the great tackles has fallen that far. But even still, they're set at tackle. You'd move them into guard. Ekwonu, which I probably mispronounced his name, is already at left tackle, and then you have Taylor Moton.
Iggy?
Yes.
I think it's Ekwonu. I think that's right. I have to hear his hurt. I think it's Iggy Ekwonu.
Yeah, fourth-year guy from
right.
NC State. So I asked the question, do you draft Ty Simpson?
Oh, dear. No.
You do not draft Ty
no,
Simpson.
No, you do not.
I love the question, though. I really can't hate that question.
Why not?
No way we have a guy in a Saints jersey asking if the Panthers should draft Ty Simpson.
You just went from a quarterback that finished 30th in passing yards per game, 30th in passer rating, 35th in yards per completion, and 24th in completion percentage.
You don't draft Ty Simpson mainly because of the prospect Ty Simpson is. Like, you're just not getting any sort of a sure thing out of Ty Simpson. And then doubling down, you just went 8-10. You just made the playoffs. You're trying to build off of that, which is like trying to build your house on the sand, which is what the foolish man does, by the way.
The foolish man does do that, yeah.
But it's definitely what they're trying to do. And with that being said, it means it's a scramble. There's no, like, time for any sort of patient team building or anything like that. You're looking to get the guy that's going to help you next year, the guy that's going to help your offense next year, I'd imagine. You're going to get your Denzel Boston, I'd imagine. You're going to get your Casey Concepcion, I'd imagine. It's pretty hard for me to see them not go wide receiver, I'll be honest.
Didn't Bryce Young just finish year 3?
He just finished year 3, yes.
So they just picked up his 5th-year extension, and you're saying that they did that so they could turn around and draft a quarterback in the first round.
It's kind of already happened in division with the Atlanta Falcons signing Kirk Cousins and then drafting Michael Penix. You can never
take team building advice from the Atlanta Falcons, people. It's definitely what you want to do.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I say it jokingly, of course, but it is like the spot that would kind of make sense of. Maybe it's a spot of a team trades up into this spot more so. Like I do think they should look to trade this pick. That was the real answer to where like this could be where Ty Simpson is drafted. but maybe it's not necessarily Carolina. Because if Ty goes past the Jets at 16, which is their second first-round pick that they got from the Sauce Gardner trade, then Pittsburgh picks at 21, and Pittsburgh needs a quarterback. You would maybe think they are drafting Ty Simpson. Who knows? Yeah. That's way up in the air. But this would be the spot I think you'd see someone trade in for Ty. But I also see like an avenue of why not Carolina try to trade up somehow and try to get one of the great receivers. Trade up for a receiver. Try to trade up into
top 12?
Yeah, the top 12 somehow, and be in a spot where you can take a receiver. And you're looking for a team that needs to rebuild. Like I look at Miami sitting there at 11. Like, they'd love to take an elite player, but what if they got a first-round pick this year and a first-round pick next year? They would love that because then maybe they could draft a quarterback next year of the future.
I wonder if the Panthers would do that so soon after. I mean, it's been a couple years now, but like you do that for Caleb Williams, you trade all your draft picks for Caleb Williams, just to make you wouldn't have to trade as much, obviously, but to then once again have to trade draft capital to get one pick. Like, I feel like you're really hurting your drafting depth for like a group of years.
Yeah.
You're missing out on a lot of first round picks for trying, and then that's why you end up in the situation where it feels like you just made the playoffs, but the roster talent doesn't feel like anything special because you really have you've lost out on a lot of top draft picks, and so then you're kind of doubling down on that philosophy.
Yeah,
I'd be very scared of that personally. I'd much prefer to trade back.
I do think though with the way that Panthers fans feel,
sure,
and it could be the same feeling in house that there is delusion, in my opinion, that this team is ready to win now. Bryce said it. They felt like they were disappointed in losing that playoff game at home. They felt like they should have won that game and should have been moving on to the next round, and they had more work to do. They just won the division. You can't not say that, even though they're 8-9. So I do think maybe there is an avenue where they think, oh, Bryce is our guy for whatever reason. And
I think that
they can improve.
Panthers fans should be allowed to think that, since he just won six, come from whatever it was,
6 game winning drives.
6 game winning drives and made the playoffs, albeit below 500. But I think that they're allowed to think that.
We've made a legitimate stat called like a Bryce Young game.
Correct.
He was 30th in a lot of stats. I get why they feel that, but they also have like very little reason to feel that. They're like grasping onto one stat.
Yeah. And hoping that he can take a year 3.
I really wish, and I understand why Pat McAfee didn't, because like you want to have guys on your podcast and your show. You're not going to be like confrontational or like disagree with them, because then why in the world would they come back?
Yeah.
But just like if he had like, maybe had like Bryce Young stats like printed out and just like could have been like, oh, could you mind taking me a look, like take a look at these, and you're telling me about like we feel like we should still be playing and stuff like that.
We'll get him a technical foul.
Not even his stats. You just want to put out the offensive stats.
We'll do what no podcast is willing to do and just piss off guests.
I'm just asking him a legitimate question.
No, yeah.
It is they were the 5th worst offense, and that's with how much success they had in the run
and
game.
a league average defense.
Yeah.
We do got to stop. Like, this isn't. Yeah.
That's why
we got to keep looking
That's
forward.
why I was trying to defend them and be like, well, they should have. I was trying to put a little bit of optimism into the segment.
I gave a few of those points in that they won the division.
Yeah.
They are the current NFC South division winners.
Yeah.
Had those kind of clutch moments. They did bring a winning attitude back into that locker room.
Yeah.
Whether they showed that statistically or not is kind of out of the question. They feel like they could win games. And
at the end of the day, that's what matters.
I also think that getting to the postseason is just that is the first step in winning Super Bowl, obviously. But being in there gives you a chance, because you have teams. 6 seeds has won the Super Bowl before, and a 4 seed with a terrible record shouldn't feel any differently. Green Bay was a 6 seed when they beat the Steelers and won the Super Bowl. The Giants were a 6 seed when they went and beat the New England Patriots. So it's something to be said that they feel like they, with the division, can get into the dance, and if they're in the dance, maybe they can do damage. At least I feel like it's completely delusional.
Sure.
I don't think they have the answer at quarterback in the future, And I do think they're stuck in a tough spot with Dave Canales, as I said. His offenses have not been good, and he's the one calling the plays, yet he's also brought this kind of belief back to the locker room. As we move on, I do think...
Real quick, what's up, Tro? How you doing?
Trail, what's up?
Oh, what's
Welcome
up,
into our
Charlito?
Panthers offseason primer.
For the pick, if they were to actually pick something, it's either I think maybe they reach, you might say, on Casey Concepcion. It may not feel that way for them. Or they go for interior offensive line because they, as I'll mention in a second, they have 3 guys that started at the interior offensive line for them this year. They're going to be free agents going into next year, and they don't have a lot of cap space, which I'll get into in a second. So like Vega from Penn State, which I think that's all I'm going to call him the entire draft process is just Vega.
I think you have full clearance too, because I'm pretty sure that's like a known nickname for him. It's like calling Tetaroa Tet, except he's not told people don't call me Vega. From my understanding. So
I think other than that, like maybe you add another interior defensive lineman to pair with Derek Brown, because that's where like the best value would be at that point. You have guys like Caleb Banks and Caden McDonald. Maybe like Peter Woods has gotten to that point. It's not a need, but it is another piece to add on your defensive line. And I do think for the Panthers going forward, if they're going to start Bryce Young, defense is going to be their answer to winning games. And so why not add another potential piece there and be able to really kind of shut down the run game with having Derek Brown and another defensive lineman, defensive tackle, first-round pick. I think they should try and trade the pick, whether it's someone trading in or them trading up.
Maybe the Falcons will come calling and we can get our Falcons first-round pick.
That would be sweet. But that would be diabolical. I'd love to see it, though.
To trade up from 40-something to...
48, I think, is where they were.
To 19, is that what you said they are? That's a big move. That'd be expensive for the Falcons. Wouldn't put it past them for them to make that, follow that process. But you have free agent. Did you already do free agency? Where are we?
I'm doing that right now.
Cool.
Cap space, the Panthers currently have $14 million in cap space for next year, so not a lot. They also have some decisions to make. Ekwanu, their starting left tackle, is due for a contract extension, and he's a franchise left tackle. He's had a very good career so far, a former top 10 pick for the Carolina Panthers out of NC State. They already picked up Bryce Young's 5th-year option, so he's with the team through the 2027 season. But they have Rico Dowdle, who's a free agent. It's hard to re-sign him with Chuba Hubbard already under an extension, albeit not an expensive one. But you only have $14 million. I think Rico Dowdle is going to call for more than $14 million.
He don't want to come back really anyway. He talked about how he felt like the way the snaps were distributed down the stretch of the season, that it was like almost like disrespectful to him, and it felt like it sent a message.
Fair point.
So
Christian Roseboom, one of their leading tacklers at linebacker, is a free agent as well. And as I mentioned earlier, kind of alluded to, 3 of the guys that started snaps for them on the offensive line, specifically Cade Mays and Austin Corbett, who both started snaps at center, but Cade Mays was their starting center for 12 games. They're going to be free agents, and so you work to try to re-sign them, but you only have $14 million in cap space. You have to try to extend your starting left tackle. They're at a kind of a tough spot. One of the players, if you were to go in free agency, that's being linked, I should say, to Carolina is Mike Evans.
That's crazy.
That's vile.
If he doesn't re-sign with Tampa, it would be more vile if he came to New Orleans. That would be hilarious.
Yeah, that actually would be crazy.
But if he doesn't re-sign with Tampa, Carolina has made it known that they want him, and they want to bring him in for Bryce Young to pair him with Ted McMillan. That is like one of the big names that's being linked to them, but I do think they need to prioritize bringing in the guys they have in-house more so than Mike Evans, personally. At his age,
he's probably going to play like 8 games.
Yeah. I wouldn't. And I talked about this earlier in my notes, at least. I didn't end up saying it. But Ted McMillan is already a great physical threat, one-on-one guy. Jalen Coker is a speed threat. I do think they need a slot guy. So that's why I was kind of alluding to maybe they should trade up, try to get a guy like Mekhi Lemon.
Yeah.
But a slot guy for them is something that's really needed. They have the deep threat in Jalen Coker and a 50-50 threat in Ted McMillan. Mike Evans doesn't fit that for them. He's not going to
Bring back Elijah Moore.
Okay. I wouldn't hate that.
That was mostly a joke just because he was not good.
They're going to have to make a bargain pick somewhere. I wish I had a little more money because in my eyes, as like we were working our way down this segment, I didn't know how much cap space they had personally. I envisioned them maybe having a little more considering the roster is not like star-studded.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if they would have been like a sleeper team for like Trey Hendrickson as he is the open market.
Yeah.
They really need pass rush help and they really need star power. It just doesn't obviously seem like they have the ability to make that happen.
And they have a lot of big like money contracts. Like Derek Brown is $25 million. Robert Hunt, one of their guards is $24 million. J.C. Horn is $24. Trayvon Moehrig is $21. Taylor Moton, their starting right tackle, is $21. You also have money linked up to both your offensive linemen, your left tackle, Ekwonu, who I've mentioned, and Damian Lewis. Money is not plentiful there. They have a lot of just guys that are signed, not necessarily huge contracts, but a ton of guys that just already are signed for them. They don't have a ton of free agents outside of Rico Dowdle and their interior offensive linemen. So they're going to have to do some cap maneuvering, kind of like what New Orleans has done in years past. They do feel like a team that's going to have to do some of those moves. Any other free agency wants? Again, like money is just they're kind of held back a little bit by money. This team already wasn't that great last year. I do think for early realistic goal, if one of you two were doing the preview or the primer, I do think you guys would say win the division. Do you agree with me?
Yes, I would agree that is a realistic goal, given that they just did it and they're returning a lot of pieces.
Yeah, I mean, realistic within a stretch. Like, it's similar, like, when I say, like, early goal for the Falcons is to, like,
go above 500.
Go above 500. You should set a goal that's, like, fairly lofty. Like, you should not just aim, unless you just suck and you know you're going to suck like the Jets or the Browns, and, like, you probably just want another really good draft pick. Like, you should aim to be good, because, like, why would you just aim for mediocrity? So, like, yes, probably I'd say they should win the division. Do I really think it's going to happen? Probably not.
Need to have every team with the goal to win the Super Bowl.
I mean, yeah. I mean, why do you play the game?
Yeah.
Why do you build your roster? Why do you,
but I
put
do
your
think
team together?
I do think it's a realistic goal for the Panthers to win the division again. That's a realistic goal. I'm not saying I'm picking them, but it's a realistic goal of theirs to win the division again.
See, I don't think it is even remotely realistic for them. And again,
okay,
it's
0-17 or winning the division more
JP
realistic.
just dropping the
0-17
hammer.
is more realistic for them.
Oh my gosh.
Where is the win on this schedule? They could lose all 17 of these games. Of course, they play in division, and they did well against division last year. But they do, because they were the number one
were they 6-2
team.
Beat the Falcons twice, lost to the Saints.
You only play 6 games, so they were 3-3. They lost to Tampa Bay.
What
once.
did I say? 6-2.
6-2.
I meant 4-2.
Yeah,
but they were 3-3.
They were 3-3
okay.
in division, so they weren't even great there. But because they were number one in the division, they get to play the Denver Broncos, the Seattle Seahawks, and go to the Philadelphia Eagles.
You're worse than all three of those teams.
Absolutely. On top of that, like I already,
at this juncture,
like what was mentioned in the Falcons preview, they play the NFC North, getting to play Chicago, Detroit, Green Bay, and Minnesota. They play the AFC North, Baltimore, Cincinnati, at Cleveland, and at Pittsburgh, which both could be cold weather games. They both are just tough places to play in general. It's really tough to win at Pittsburgh. And as many teams have shown, it's really tough to win at Cleveland, regardless of how good the team is. So I do think they're in.
What's their easiest non-division game?
Their easiest.
Is it like hosting the Bengals?
For me personally,
or hosting the Lions?
I think the easiest non-division game is one of the road games. That's at probably at Cleveland.
Sure. I forgot to go back to Cleveland. It definitely is that. But I mean, it's not easily winning Cleveland. They are kind of good for picking up a win or two against a good team at home.
Yes, so that is one thing they showed last year, and that is why I would say the early realistic goal for them is to continue momentum in the building and in the city and get to a spot where you feel like Bryce Young is actually your quarterback and Dave Canales has a good offense. I do think you need to find improvement there. So if there was like a benchmark I would look to is one way to prove that is what they did this year, which was this year they were 5-4 at home and they were 3-6 on the road. But neither of those records were good. Of course, they weren't. They were an 8-10 football team, but they won a big game in both of those spots. Specifically, they won 2 pretty critical games at home and then won one on the road. That was surprising. The one on the road was at Green Bay. So maybe you look to try and have one of those kinds of wins again this year. You play at Green Bay again. The other one is they won 2 at home. One was the Dallas Cowboys early in the season. They beat Dallas in a kind of a classic game at home. And then the other one was the Los Angeles Rams. Next year they host, of course, their division, but they host Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Denver, Seattle. So I think early realistic goal is try to be 5-4 at home again. If you're 5-4 at home again, I do think they are right there at 8 wins because I do think they find 3 wins on the road.
Yeah.
Somehow, whether that's Atlanta in division or one of those games like Cleveland, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
That would be my realistic goal is try to find those kinds of wins again more so than that. I guess that is another way of saying get to the path of winning the division somehow. But I just don't think that's going to be attainable with the schedule that they play. And they already proved Tyler Shuck owns them, so that's going to be a problem. They're a couple plays from being 0-2 to Tampa Bay, and both of the Atlanta games were so shocking. I don't know.
You're probably not sweeping the Falcons again.
Yeah, so I do not think winning the division is attainable. Will I pick them to go 2-15 again? We'll see. We'll see how the draft goes. We'll see how free agency goes.
Sure.
I do think they are on the board of Dave Canales is fired after next year. I think that's more so on the board than maybe 2-15 because what was he brought here to do? Coach offense. He was an offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay, and he's had the bottom 10 defense both the 2 years. So
bottom 10 offense.
Yeah, bottom 10 offense.
Yeah, I'm fine with that goal. I do think it's gonna be. You talked about them needing to maintain momentum. I think it's gonna be really hard for them to maintain momentum, and just win 7 games or something like that, or even maybe just win 8 games again. But then someone in the division wins 10 or 11, and you go from there. That's just you're trying to thread the needle to make that happen, and maybe they do.
Yeah.
But on to the next.
Do we want to go ahead and let me do Tampa Bay and we'll finish out? Before we do that, I'm gonna experiment with something. I might de-wire here for this. I've been watching a lot of a different YouTube channel, and they all have free mics. I was like, okay, I kind of see the appeal now that I'm watching somebody else do it. We're gonna see how it goes.
You watched us do it for 6 months.
No, y'all don't count. Y'all don't count.
The entire football season.
So I have to turn my mic off. Y'all just chit chat for a sec.
Cool. I got in a 2022 interview with GQ Sports.
Mm-hmm.
It's with Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
Steph Curry dreams of a future 5 years from now where Jordan Poole is an all-star, Kuminga is an all-defensive player, and Wiseman is an MVP candidate.
Tough.
Yeah. That's what a timeline. None of them are now on the team for various reasons.
Where's Kuminga now?
Kuminga just got traded to the Hawks.
Yet, how long ago was that?
2022. So he probably had just been
won
drafted.
A championship in those years.
Yes.
Anyway.
He did.
So
it's that's less about Steph Curry and more so just crazy where all the other guys' career ends. Where Jordan Poole gets punched by Draymond and is off the team. James Wiseman just never panned out. Same with Kuminga. Maybe partially mishandled. I did also see a report where Kuminga was shocked to learn that he was traded to the Hawks, and I'm like, how are you shocked that you got traded? I mean, obviously, I think there's more that he got traded to the Hawks, but where did you expect to get traded? I guess did you expect to have any sort of say? I don't know. Yeah. What contender wants?
I feel weird. I feel very exposed with nothing in front of me. I don't know if I like it.
You're gonna have to work on your cable management.
Yeah.
Making sure you turn off your mic when you set it down.
I don't have anything on my lap now, so I can cross my legs.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I could even hit a very relaxed.
I mean, if you'd like.
This is weird, but I can go ahead and get us moved on.
Let's do it. Welcome
to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because I am doing their primer. This is also actually I think I'll just pull my notes up on the big screen. That'll be easiest.
I'm just gonna start sniping your notes. Like you're gonna like ask us a question. I'll be like, yeah, I just really feel like this is no. I won't do that.
That'd be crazy. It
would be diabolical.
I really should have put more about how the Tampa Bay... Actually, no, this is not about last season, so I'm not going to put how their season went or the record they finished with or any of that. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I do know this, had an underwhelming second half of the season after starting out roughly 6-2. Like I said, I'm going off the dome here, so I'm not going to be exact there, but had a great start to the season. Emeka Egbuka looked like a front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year, and then they kind of have a collapse on the back half of the season with injuries to Mike Evans. Chris Godwin tries to come back, and that does not work out. He's not able to get back at 100% in time to kind of save the functionality of that offense. Baker Mayfield did carry it for a week or two with the likes of Tez Johnson, but in the end, it ends up falling apart. That being said, before we talk about the 2026 offseason, let's talk about team MVP. Mine is Baker Mayfield. It's been a tough time for him, and I'll talk about him more in a little bit. But he's had 8 offensive coordinators in his 8 seasons in the NFL, and I think maybe it's easy to kind of use that excuse, and I think that's a valid excuse for why the offense wasn't necessarily clicking for the entirety of this season, just because he's still continuing to figure it out. Now, you can get nitpicky and say, well, it worked at the beginning. I just think that it's not entirely Baker Mayfield's fault, and the way he was able to overcome some of the early injury issues with games with Tez Johnson was really impressive to me. He was a great quarterback and an MVP front runner. I don't know if he ever became the favorite, but I think he was up to the second in the betting odds around week 6.
And I mean, I think right there is why the offense fell off. I mean, part of it is due to the injuries, but there were injuries for most of the season, and he overcame it with MVP level play. But realistically, y'all can disagree, I guess, but Baker's not an MVP level QB. And so, like, asking him to do that for a full season, you're just probably not getting that. Like, he was always going to regress at some point. People talked about, he's putting the ball in harm's way, and he got away with a lot in terms of the interception front on the early part of the season. That regressed. Like, just asking anyone to be a hero for 17 weeks probably isn't going to pan out.
Yeah, I think there's a difference, though, between being a hero and I think he could put together MVP-level play. But I think that he was doing not more than that. He was just doing like the elite of the elite. He was doing it with bad weapons.
Yeah, but he was kind of an MVP front runner because of his heroics, is what I'm like. Because of the big plays he was making at the end of games, because of the game-winning drives he constantly had. Like that was what was building his MVP case. That's what was giving him the numbers.
Did he have 4 game-winning drives in their first 5 games, and then the one they lost to the Eagles? Is that right?
Yes, it was a substantial amount. I kind of disagree though.
I think he's great.
You think he could win MVP?
Yes.
Okay. Last year he threw for 4,500 yards and 41 touchdowns. He led the league in interceptions though with 16.
Yeah.
Make that as out of what you want. I think health has been a huge problem for Tampa Bay back-to-back years. At the end of last year, of course, the injuries kind of subsided, and he just didn't have the year that Lamar or Josh Allen had. But I do think the dude can win the MVP. He may be too old at this point. I think the way he played the last 2 years would have been easier. Last year, he finished 11th in MVP with those stats that he had, 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns. But I do think the way he played this year, like, the dude was making, like, MVP-level plays every single week. Incredible throws every single week. Game-winning drives every single week. He had 4 of them
until
this
he
year.
wasn't.
Until the team kind of fully tore apart and the offensive line finally was too much for him to overcome.
Yeah.
Losing those offensive linemen so early.
Yeah.
So I do think he's got that in his bag.
So that's my MVP for the season. I think JP sounds like you would agree. And I think Jack maybe...
he's my MVP
but
for the
you
season.
would also agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just don't know that he has NFL MVP play let in him. We'll see. We can talk about that more as we talk about next season. My unsung MVP or whatever. Is that what we've been called? Unsung?
Unsung.
Is Jacob
Under the
Parrish. Third round pick in 2025, so he just finished his rookie year. Started 5 games for the Bucks this season and finished second on the team in interceptions. And I think the reason I really wanted to give him the shout is because that secondary is kind of aging, especially with Jamel Dean and Antoine Winfield back there. I believe they're both in their early 30s. I think it's huge for the Bucks to have potentially hit on a guy, somebody who started, like I said, 5 games in the third round, a young guy who can hopefully maybe you get another year or 2 out of those 2 guys, Winfield and Dean, and then you kind of pass the reins off, and maybe Jacob Parrish can be, if not your lockdown corner on one side, he's your really good cornerback too on the other side. So I think that's why I wanted to give him the shout, just because it's so important, and I'll talk about this a lot more in the Bucks for the rest of the primer, is continuing to kind of find guys, young guys, to replace all the older talent they have.
I like that shout. I really do. For him to play the way he did at just 21 years old, too, it's a statement. Of course, rookie season, so he's young anyway, but very young. I like that shot personally. Jack?
I'm good with it. I mean, yeah.
I really wanted to do Vita Vea. I just wanted to talk about him just because he's such a dog, and it is crazy how well he plays and how different he is from every other defensive tackle in the NFL. But he wasn't the MVP, and he's not unknown or unsung. So I guess I did talk about him, but he doesn't get a title. As far as coaching goes, Todd Bowles is back for another year. This will be year 5 for him. And then they bring in Zach Robinson, replacing Josh Grizzard after they fired him. And I'm really excited to see this matchup, or this combination, because of Robinson's experience with Mayfield. And I'm about to talk about Baker Mayfield a little bit more. Robinson was the quarterback coach, I believe, or the passing game coordinator at Los Angeles when Baker had his historic 2 days of preparation and come and lead that come from behind win. I watched the last 15 minutes of that game earlier today just because I feel like it's probably Baker Mayfield, in my opinion, his biggest achievement, because that's just ridiculous to me. And he's had a lot of achievements.
Biggest NFL achievement?
Yes, thank you. His biggest NFL achievement. His biggest achievement in the NFL, the thing that stands out to me the most. Drafted first overall in 2018, ended the Browns' 19-game losing streak, broke the record for most passing touchdowns by a rookie, led the Browns to their first playoff berth since 2002, and then in 2021 plays with that partially torn labrum. The Browns trade for Deshaun Watson, and they trade away Mayfield to Carolina, where he ends up competing with fellow 2018 first-round pick Sam Darnold for the starting job, loses that job to P.J. Walker, and then gets released. And then the Rams claim him from waivers on a Tuesday, and then I think a Thursday night game, he leads. They're down 6, and he leads a 98-yard drive with a little over a minute left with no timeouts, and he learned the playbook 2 days ago. That's what's crazy to me. It's not like he just won the game because they got up early and then they just ran the ball. No, he's out there no huddle, looking to the sidelines with a guy he met 48 hours ago, and they're navigating this drive down the field. Like I said, the punt beforehand, ridiculous. The thing landed at the 20 and rolled to the 2 and went out of bounds. So a fantastic drive by him and a fantastic game. So I went back and watched that, and then signed a 1-year contract with the Bucks off of that. Kind of a Malik Willis. Was Baker Mayfield the Malik Willis before Malik Willis? Maybe. We can discuss that. Went 9-8, 4,000 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, 10 picks, and then signed the 3-year extension, which this is the final year of. Which I think we can have that conversation about. He's in his early 30s, drafted in 2018, like I said, so this is year 8 or 9. I'm not going to try and do the math in my head. But he's in the final year of his 3-year extension that he signed with Tampa after that first season. Yeah, because this is year 4. So he's their quarterback for this year. Other things to look in free agency, other places to look. Mike Evans is a free agent. Hassan Reddick is a free agent. Jamel Dean is a free agent. Levante David is a free agent. And Cade Otton is a free agent. So they've got some big names. Some older guys. Hassan Reddick, I believe, is 32 or 33. He's up there. Mike Evans is in their early 30s. Jamel Dean and Levante David are both in their early 30s. And so I feel like this could be a situation where it's almost like a house made of cards, whereas if you can convince everyone to come back and try and put together a Super Bowl run, it works. But the minute one of those aging veterans leaves, well, then your attempt to win a Super Bowl becomes less likely, which means the other guys start to decide, I really want another ring, and I don't think I'm going to do it in Tampa Bay, and so they leave. And so I really think that you need to keep all of these pieces in place, especially Mike Evans, Jamel Dean, and Levante David. I feel like those are all huge pieces. Cade Otton is big. I know Jack's a big Cade Otton guy because of fantasy football. So I think that it's a big part. It's going to be big to keep all those pieces together because I think if you lose a Jamel Dean or a Levante David, you just have to hope that you hit on the guys behind them, and you have to hope that you can convince everyone who you're trying to stick around for one more run, like, hey, like the defense isn't going to fall apart, or Chris Godwin and Mike Egbuka are going to be enough, even if we lose Mike Evans and Cade Otton. So that'll be something I look to see in free agency. I didn't write down how much cap space they have, so I'm not sure about that number. I think, JP, if you could pull it up, that'd be great. But I think that's going to be one big thing, is this team is kind of set up to win now, right? Not aging quarterback. He's still in his mid to early 30s, but experienced veteran quarterback, and then the rest of the roster has experience. There's not a lot of young guys outside of Egbuka who are playing like big-time snaps, right? Vita Vea leads that dominant defensive line. You've got Jamel Dean and Levante David leading the linebacker room in the secondary. Those guys both have experience. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, experience. The running back room has some experience, but also running backs just tend to be younger guys outside of Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. A couple others around the league. Running backs just tend to be younger as you replace them. I think that this is a team you need to keep the pieces together to make the win now moves and try and go after the Super Bowl. What are your thoughts about their free agency?
They got $24 million in cap space. I'd prioritize getting and keeping Baker's guys, and then I'd almost consider drafting a bunch of defensive guys and go younger there. I think you have cornerstones in Anton Winfield and Vita Vea. Defensively, if Levante David wants to play for cheap, go ahead. We'll bring him back. But I do think Baker continuing to have Mike Evans and Cade Otton are only going to help him. So I would prioritize those two re-signings, and maybe even like Sterling Shepard is a free agent guy you didn't mention. He's had a connection with Baker since Oklahoma, so those kind of guys to keep the familiarity of the offense with him when you're changing the offense coordinator every year. At least you're keeping the same personnel, and it allows Baker to continue to flourish offensively. They just got to stay healthier on the offensive line. That'd be where I'd prioritize my signings, and then leading to the draft.
Yeah, I'm like, you talk about running it back, trying to bring as many of the guys back as possible. I guess I'm fine with that. I don't love it, and maybe it's just because of how the season ended. You know, just the slide, missing the playoffs, kind of shocking considering how they started the season. I know, like, injuries played a large part of that, but bringing back older guys, you're not necessarily helping your odds on the injury front. So I guess, though I wouldn't feel great about it, but like I'm fine to run it back for one more year.
What are your thoughts? And JP, this question might be more directed at you. Like I said, this is the final year of Baker Mayfield's contract, and I feel like oftentimes when guys are due up for extensions, you hear about it, and I haven't heard anything about it from Baker. If you're the Buccaneers, are you trying to tie him down in another like a 2 or 3 year extension and get him till he's 35, or are you playing it out this year and then see where it goes from there? If you don't do well in the division again, you decide, you know what, it's time for us to like kind of start a soft rebuild.
I'd keep him because he hasn't dealt with injury concerns himself necessarily while in Tampa Bay. Like, that's kept him out of games for a prolonged period. He's played through injuries. And I do think he is one of those quarterbacks that is so good cerebrally and so good upstairs in his head that with the talent that he does have, I do think he could play as long as he wanted to the point to where like Stafford is right now at 37. I do think he has that in him, and I don't think you get rid of that very, very easily because I don't think he thinks his career is anywhere close to being done. So then you're just going to have him walk and potentially go somewhere else and win and rub it in your face, which is what he's doing to Cleveland and has been doing to Cleveland. So I wouldn't personally want that. I think you continue to play him because for what it's worth, how is he not the best quarterback in the division for the next 3 years?
Yeah.
Unless Tyler Shuck is great, which I don't think he is. I just think he's above or at league average.
You would have to get like the best possible Tyler Shuck development.
Yeah.
For him to be better than Baker, most likely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'd be fine keeping him around.
Yeah, I think I'm more than fine. I think that's the goal. I think I'm eager to keep him around. But we can talk about their draft because I was doing their draft and I just kind of fell into a hole and ended up doing 5 rounds instead of our usual 1 to 2 that we usually talk about. And you kind of hit the nail right on the head, JP. I loved what you said. Keep Baker's guys and draft defense. In the first round at 15, I'm looking either in the secondary or the edge room. A couple guys, names I have to throw out, Mansur Delane from LSU, and then Cassius Howell. And like I said, that's at pick 15. I can't remember if I said that. Yes, Gig'em, Cassius Howell. You fall into the second round, and then at 46, I'm looking at linebacker. And that's, I think, a good place to try and find the heir to Levante David if he decides to come back, or if not. But either way, Alabama, Deontay Lawson from Alabama.
Yeah, one of your guys.
Not one of my guys. Actively not one of my, I believe, actively avoided drafting a different Alabama guy for one of my teams just so that y'all wouldn't say that I'm an Alabama fan. So,
you could run from it all you want, but you can't escape it.
Another option is if they choose not to bring back Cade Otton, they get Eli Stowers. He's a guy that, yes, another A&M guy. I like him a lot. I know he's not your traditional tight end, but he's still a very dangerous weapon. So I would love to see them take Eli Stowers if they choose to let Cade Otton walk. I would still probably keep Otton and then spend that pick on defense. At pick 77, this is a pick that I really like, and this is a weird one. I actually want to show y'all this because it's JP denied Dennis Sutton, correct?
Yeah.
Denied Dennis Sutton. If you look at his, I gotta go find it, PFF like mock draft simulator data, you can see where he used to be mock drafted, and this is a terrible ratio for the screen, so I'm gonna put it over here. You can see that like in what is this, August? No, not even August. Whatever, April.
May.
In April and May, he was like mock drafted in like between 25 and 30. And he has since fallen to being mock drafted in the mid 90s, upper 80s, mid 90s. So I think this is great value for a guy who's super talented and was a part of a really weird year at Penn State that ended up in getting their coach fired. So I really like this pick because he's a talented guy. He's part of that Penn State, edge U or D-line U, whatever you want to call it, with the guys they put in the league and Micah Parsons, and more recently, last year, the guy that the Giants drafted, Abdul Carter.
Mm-hmm. He's a physical freak, 6'5".
Yep.
260. He's lightning fast.
Yeah.
He's 100% a problem. So he's someone that can be productive immediately, more than likely, and that's something they need.
Yeah.
So.
I'm interested to see if he's a guy that, as we get away from games being played and we're back into just like, guys testing numbers and seeing guys at pro days and stuff, if he's someone that just kind of like climbs back up. Probably not, back into the first round, but then like, he's a mid-second round pick or like a late second round pick instead of, what you mentioned him in the 90s.
Yeah.
But
I could see that happening. I also wouldn't be I would be surprised, but I feel like we have guys who just kind of out of nowhere, the physical traits they have will put them in the first round.
Sure. Maybe
not from, like I said, the 90s, but we'll see. Other options at 116, so that's the fourth round. Bud Clark, a safety from TCU. Another backfilling, planning for the future is Antoine Winfield. How old is Antoine Winfield? Because I keep saying he's old, but I may have been
27 or 28.
Is he really old? Okay. I do apologize. I think I've been in my head. I had him around the same age as the other guys I was talking about, the linebacker and the cornerback. So maybe you get him to play across from Winfield then, because 27-28, I think that Winfield could probably still play another 4 or 5 years at a high level. And then another guy, Josh Cuevas, tight end from Alabama. And like I said, that would be if you don't go Eli Stowers in the second round. And then finally, in the 5th round, Pat Coogan, center from Indiana. I think Coogan has experience at the guard position as well at Notre Dame, where he played guard for Notre Dame 2 years ago, I believe. So he's got experience all over the internal offensive line, which is really good. That's a piece that, especially with an offensive line that's dealt with injury, you bring in a guy who can play 3 positions for the price of 1 pick. That's really big. And then another option I threw out there, Brennan Thompson, wide receiver from Mississippi State. Like I said, this is the 5th round, and he's way smaller than Emeka. He's not quite the route artist that Emeka is, but he is very fast. Was referred to as the fastest man in college football this year. We are also a state podcast, which is there's a cowbell there, and then
hat.
Yeah, the hat you're wearing. Sign here, sign up there. So
JP's hat.
JP's hat. Yes. State. I felt like I had to look a little bit harder than I was expecting. But state podcast. So I wanted to shout out Brennan Thompson. I think that could be a good compliment. To go with Emeka Egbuka, and maybe you do keep Chris Godwin, but to bring in a big-time speed threat in Brennan Thompson.
He's a Saint, sorry.
Well, we'll fight. May have to fight over him. How about what if y'all got Mike Evans and they took Brennan Thompson?
We don't need Mike Evans. We have too many young receivers in there.
Sure. I'm not gonna walk back through this whole draft.
That's fair.
But in terms of first round, you laid it out well. But in terms of first round, I'd be fine with Mansour Delane. Cassius Howard just scares me, like in the top half of
somebody's got to get drafted.
He does.
Somebody's got to go in the top 15.
But he just seems like someone that could be a star, but also just has pretty high bust potential. And so as a team that's trying to run it back for one more year, do I love, okay, maybe this guy's size concerns and this guy's ability to hold up in the run game really comes to fruition, and he struggles to be on the field for a year where it's man, if we just have 1 or 2 more pieces, then we're really ready to roll. So that scares me, but also you don't necessarily want to be the team that's drafting safe all the time in the first round. You will really want to be drafting for talent.
Maybe they're a candidate to try and trade back if a team wants a wide receiver, and this is 15, so maybe this is a Denzel Boston area, or maybe Mekhi Lemon is if Mekhi Lemon falls 15 and some team in the 20s like Buffalo in the late 20s really wants Mekhi Lemon, they really want that wide receiver.
Sure.
They trade up, and then that puts you in territory for Akeem Mesidor from Miami, which Akeem Mesidor is he's the super safe old start day one NFL prospect. Mm-hmm. The downside of him is he's 25, right? So you're only going to get him at his prime for 4 years, as opposed to 2 to 3 years. Exactly.
You get him nice and cheap, and then hey, you're already 29 or whatever. We can just let you trot out the door.
Yeah, he's the perfect guy for a team that's missing one piece and thinks that he could be that piece because he's very good. He is not the perfect guy for teams that I'll talk about in a little bit, like the Titans, or the Browns, right? Who feel like they need to add a lot of pieces. So I could see the Buccaneers, maybe that doesn't work out, but that's the vibe of what they're going for, right? Is somebody who's going to come in and make an impact and not be a 2 or 3 year developmental piece, like we kind of expected Abdul Carter to be, right? As highly drafted as he was going to be a guy that was he's going to come in after his junior year, and it's going to take a while to figure it all out. So
did we really think that, though? I feel
maybe
he
not.
was the favorite to win Defensive Rookie of the Year.
But he didn't have that season, did he?
Well, I mean, part of it is he did not, and part of it probably is because
maybe I'm speaking in too much hindsight. I think I'm definitely using hindsight there, and I apologize.
I mean, maybe when we knew we went to the Giants and it was well, he's playing in a room where it's maybe hard to get pass rushing reps compared to some other.
I'm
guys
really
there.
glad that y'all have bad memories, because I just remembered a take I had where I said I thought he was going to be better than Micah Parsons. So, I just lied. I did not think that he was.
Well, I mean, from weeks 12 through 18. He had more production than Micah Parsons did.
True. I do apologize for the blatant lie I just told, if anyone goes back and finds that very old take. But all that to say, that's what I would do for the Buccaneers in the draft. Is JP said it best: re-sign Baker's guys and draft defense. And then if goals for 2026, because that's what this is an offseason primer talking about the offseason and then 2026. I have 2 goals. Then they are almost counter opposites. They kind of oppose each other. The first goal is win the NFC South. That's a big goal. You felt like you were in the driver's seat through the first half of the season, and then fell apart and collapsed down the stretch. And so now you need to go into this season and think we're healthy. We have the majority of our pieces back. We just need to get the driver's seat and not collapse again. So that's the goal. And then the other goal is start to transition from an older roster. I'm going to list out some of the guys they've got. Levante David, 35. Mike Evans, 32. Sterling Shepard, 32. Hassan Reddick, 31. Vita Vea, 30. Jamel Dean, 29. Chris Godwin, 29. And especially for Dean and Godwin as a cornerback and a wide receiver at 29, that's a position where you're going to start to see like the drop-off in production and ability to produce and physicality, just because it's a position that requires so much speed and athleticism, unlike maybe an offensive line where you can play into your mid-30s like an Andrew Whitworth did. It's just a lot harder to hang with younger guys because it's so speed-dependent out there on those islands. So that's a big, I think, point for me is draft well to start to, even if you're able to bring back all those guys and who are free agents this offseason, you need to start finding the replacements for them, because after this contract, they aren't going to be able to, like, you're not going to bring them back for another contract in 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think when the NFC South is like a given, it's in terms of the 3 NFC South teams we've previewed today, they have the most, like, okay, you really got to, like, win the NFC South, and you really got to make playoff hay because of the age of the roster. And then ideally just the transition from an older roster happens naturally as you just draft well, right?
Yeah.
You know, you don't waste your picks. You know, you're not going to hit on every pick, but you hit on at least a high enough percentage of your 3rd-round picks, your 4th-round picks to make it happen. So I'm fine with those goals.
Cool. JP, would you agree?
Yeah. It's more attainable than Carolina and Atlanta. I'll
Sure.
say that much. That's for sure.
Just had
Completely
to
agree.
throw the dig in there for Carolina and Atlanta. That's crazy. Is it more attainable than New Orleans?
I don't know, because New Orleans is, I think, going to have a chance to have what the Patriots had this year, or the Broncos, and that fact that their schedule is going to be so damn weak that I do think New Orleans has a better chance to win more games than Tampa Bay. Not that they're necessarily better than them.
That's fair.
Head-to-head's going to be crucial there.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, we are hour 42 in, and we are not halfway done with the primers.
Should we flip to the AFC South?
We have to, because we are out of NFC
Correct.
South teams.
So we shall. Okay, let's go to the Texans. I'll start us off.
Yeah. We'll do. How about we do Jack, me, JP, me, since
That
I'm
works.
doing 2. So start it off with Houston.
Yeah, I'll stay 2025 or go back to 2025 real quick. My 2025 MVP is Will Anderson off the edge, 12 sacks. One of the best players, I would argue the best player on that dominant defense, but I mean there's studs all over the place. Daniel Hunter off the other edge is just as phenomenal. Jalen Petrie as a safety. Derek Stingley, like Kamari Lassiter. I could just keep going. Dogs all over that defense. But I'll give the specific award to Will Anderson. And then for 2025 unsung hero, unsung MVP, whatever you want to call it, I give it to Dalton Schultz. 777 yards, 82 receptions, 3 touchdowns. No, like, crazy numbers, but considering how the younger wide receivers haven't panned out, kind of that trio of Iowa State guys, Christian Kirk was banged up. He was a great security blanket for for C.J. Stroud this year. Even Nico Collins missed time. Tank Dell didn't play, So I feel like he filled out his role really well, and yeah, just had a kind of a sneaky, solid season. Thoughts?
I would go with Kalen Bullock.
Sure.
Safety rookie for them, who was also a Pro Bowl. This defense just would have been my MVP in general.
Yeah, it's unreal.
They had 6 Pro Bowlers. The only one that wasn't a Pro Bowler was Daniil Hunter, but Daniil Hunter was second team All-Pro. Stingley and Will Anderson were both also first-team All-Pro. So this defense was just phenomenal all year. They were on a record pace in terms of points per game. And they were in like kind of a conversation of, are they the best defense of all time had they continued success in the postseason? And because they were so opposite of what the offense was doing for the better part of the entire season and especially the postseason, they were like just feared.
Yeah.
Didn't want to play Houston because you saw them do what they did against Josh Allen on a Thursday Night Football game with Davis Mills starting, or you saw what they did in the fourth quarter against Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So their defense was absolutely incredible, and was for them being so young too is what is really like I think a full credit to D'Amico Ryans and their defensive coordinator as well. Stingley's 24, Will Anderson's 24, Kalen Bullock, as I mentioned, 22, Kamari Lassiter, 22. They have such a young defense, and that didn't even mention guys like Tommy Togiai and Henry Toto, and Jalen Petrie. I didn't even mention him as well. It feels like that defense is going to continue to be good.
Yeah,
for years to come.
They return
And it
most
should
of the
be.
guys because of how young it is. Like they've not got to the point where they've had to start making tough choices on who to keep and who to let go because with how good it is, you're not going to be able to keep everyone right. But the defense is it's fair to just call the whole defense the team MVP because it's how they got to where they were. It is crazy looking back. Like C.J. Stroud's rookie year, the Texans led the league in scoring, and now here we are where it's like completely flipped on its head. Too bad they can't find the perfect fusion.
Yeah, kind of like the Chargers and Justin Herbert and that
Sure.
defense.
Sure.
Can never have good performances from both sides of the ball the same year.
With the MVPs out of the way, we can go ahead and move on. Looking forward to the offseason. No big coaching changes. Some like small positional changes, like they let their tight end coach go, like an offensive assistant left. But no major moves. D'Amico Ryans is still back. Stuff like that. And then looking ahead into the draft, they have the 20th overall pick and then 2 seconds. What do we always hear from Texans fans? Like I texted my brother-in-laws and Jackson, who's frequently in the chat. They're Texans fans. Like, what are y'all? I'm doing the Texans offseason primer today. What are their biggest goals for the offseason? What should they be? The first text I received was, hopefully C.J. Stroud gets lobotomized to cure his postseason interception issues, which maybe the haircut has done that. And then it was offensive line help, offensive line help, offensive line help. So I really think they're going to hit that heavy in the first couple picks. They drafted 28. I don't think Vega's going to be there at 28. I expect him to be off the board. But maybe even like a Caden Proctor, someone who physical freak, hasn't held up the best at tackle. So people are like, hey, maybe just move him into guard. So maybe they get him because they have other offensive linemen on the roster that they're kind of still moving around, have played multiple positions. So maybe you just get a guy like that. And then maybe in the second round, you're going someone like the Jake Slaughter, I think is his name.
Yep, from Florida,
Yep,
the center.
Him or like Connor Liu from Auburn,
Yep.
one of those two guys later in the rounds. But I think you really have to hammer offensive line. And then the other two options are possibly interior defensive line. It's kind of the one part of their defense that like they go budget on, which kind of makes me think they're not going to go it. Like, they've not drafted an interior defensive line in multiple years. They've not really given out big money in free agency and to interior defensive linemen. But they've worked. So maybe they just kind of – I feel like they probably just keep the same process of, like, we'll just bring in a vet, and what vet isn't going to want to play on this defense, right?
Yeah.
So they could take a swing and, like, try and really infuse talent there. I've already mentioned, guys, Dante Corleone, Dominique Orange, Lee Hunter from Texas Tech. They could make that swing. And then the other pivot is maybe with like one of the second-round picks, maybe even the first-round pick, but I don't think so. They take yet another swing at wide receiver. I don't know how they feel about the Iowa State guys. None of them have really popped. I mean, none of them finished with over 500 receiving yards this past season. Nico Collins is fantastic. He's been a little banged up. I believe Christian Kirk is off the books. He's a free agent. So maybe you bring him back. I just don't have high hopes for Tank Dell with a completely new knee, basically, like coming back and being crazy productive. So you definitely have to address wide receiver, and maybe it's in one of these first couple rounds, but also maybe it's a free agency issue, or maybe it's just later in the draft. I don't know what y'all think with their first round and
The
kind of their
free
top
agency
picks.
free agency issue is going to be a problem given they have negative cap space
Yes,
right
correct.
now, and they'll be able to move it around. But I mean, I imagine, are they going to want to bring back Ed Ingram? Like, that's a guard who's just finished his first contract. Another offensive line was a problem. I don't know how big of a problem he was in that offensive line.
He was fine.
Yeah, and so, like, do you try and bring him back? If so, he's expected, according to Spot Rack, he's like supposed to make like $13 million a year, and right now you have a negative cap space. Like, not even like the joking, like literally they have negative cap space. So I feel like free agency is going to be a hard place, and especially as expensive as wide receiver is. I believe it's the fourth most expensive position according to the average annual value. So addressing wide receiver in free agency, I feel like could be problematic.
Sure.
So I would not hate a swing, and I wouldn't even hate a swing at one of the second round guys, like one of the Indiana guys.
Yeah.
Right?
Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper.
Yes,
I like those
exactly.
fits a lot.
Exactly.
I think the biggest question for me, and it's a question I'm wholly capable of getting answered, is like what does the building think about those Iowa State receivers? You know, Xavier Hutchinson, Jalen Noel. The other guy's name is another Jalen.
Jaden Higgins,
Jaden
and
Higgins,
Jalen
yes.
Noel are the
Yeah.
two Iowa State guys.
Like
So Hutchinson's TCU.
Mhm.
I thought he also played at Iowa State.
He's not one of the two guys that drafted last year.
Correct. But like I think it's a trio. That's what I was looking at earlier. I could have obviously looked at it wrong, and just like wrote down Iowa State for him when I meant to write it down for somebody else. Yeah,
Yes, he
he's
played
in
at
it?
Iowa
Okay,
State.
Cool. So like, I just wonder what they think of like, oh, okay, their stats weren't great rookie year. They didn't produce, but like we still really think we got legit, NFL wide receivers here. Or after their first season, they're already like, yeah, okay, maybe we missed on these picks and we already need to start looking elsewhere.
I would just let him play another year. I'd develop.
Yeah.
I think you can very easily put the blame on the offensive line and the lack of, because of that, able to run the football, and therefore it became a lot easier to blanket these receivers and a lot less one-on-one scenarios. And C.J. Stroud had a tough year because of the offensive line, and continue going down the blame of other things outside of them too.
According to D'Amico Ryans, the offensive line wasn't as bad as we think it was. So
It's up for debate. I think you already have a very good receiver in Nico Collins, one of the best in the league.
sure.
I would just let them two, Jalen and Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, develop
Fair.
and see what Tank Dell is next year.
The one other option I've not mentioned yet is running back. What do you think about that group? Nick Chubb getting old.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon has this like freaky foot injury, and so no one really know. Like, can you put any stock in him really like returning to form? We love Woody Marks. We talked about being a state podcast, but is he someone that you really want to like shoulder the sole load? So like, you try and address that at some point in the draft.
Yeah, this is a problem I ran into when I was doing the Titans. Is I feel like once you get past the fourth round, there aren't as many guys as I loved as last year's running back class.
It was an elite running back class last year, so that makes sense.
Exactly. But I think like in the fourth round, I think it's the fourth round. Like Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, the Penn State guys, are two very talented guys who, like I just talked about with the preview we just did, Penn State and their down year. I feel like you like almost take production out of it and just have to ignore whatever they looked like last season. And those are two guys who were fantastic the year before at Penn State. I mean, they were in the semifinals for the playoffs. So I think that running back is a spot, something you can address. And I will say this about running back is one of the cheaper positions to try and address in free agency. And so if you were going to – now it is cheaper, obviously, to do it via the draft, but you get bigger discounts when you tackle other positions as opposed to running back. Running back is one of the cheaper positions you're going to be able to find in free agency. And so, I mean, I don't know who the running back free agents are this season. We just talked about one at Carolina, Rico Dowdle.
Yeah.
He'll be a free agent. Now, maybe he asks for more money than you're willing to give a free agent, but that might be something that they consider is addressing the more expensive stuff through the draft, and then trying to hit some of the cheaper positions through free agency. Najee Harris, it'll be a free agent. Coming off an injury, maybe you can get a discount on him. Travis Etienne is going into free agency. Javonte Williams just had his great season with Dallas. Maybe you can get a discount on him. Or not a discount, maybe you can go and get him for a couple $1 million. So there's possibilities. I think free agency might be a good spot to address running back.
Yeah, I mean, once again, we'll see. And all this is really tangential to their biggest or secondary to their biggest concern, which is the offensive line. So really, talking once again about their top 3 picks, you really should expect it to be heavy offensive line. The only thing is, I could have said that last year.
Yeah.
And last year they traded away their best offensive linemen, traded their first round pick, and then drafted receivers in the second round. So do they make that same mistake again, or do they be like, okay, now we actually need to go try and get it done? Who knows?
Is there a reason for them to not spend every pick on an offensive lineman? Because if you walk, I'm mostly trolling, but what if they spent 4 picks on offensive linemen? That's the genuine question, because they don't need a whole lot of help on defense, right? Secondary, great. Defensive line, edge rushers are great. Interior, like you said, maybe it could use some help. Or maybe you try and bring back, I think Sheldon Rankins is going into free agency.
Correct.
Maybe you try and bring him back. What if they just bring back all those pieces, right? Because wide receiver, we just said, I agree, run it back with Nico Collins, the 3 Iowa State guys, and Tank Dell, and see what you have there. Did I say running back? I meant wide receiver.
I was tracking.
Wide receiver, run it back with what you've got there. Running back, bring back Woody Marks and Joe Mixon, try and get Joe Mixon healthy this offseason, and then maybe, take somebody, try and get somebody in free agency who's cheaper, like $5 million, $6 million, and then just draft in bulk. Just draft 5 offensive linemen, and then just start trying things out in camp, and then hopefully you have a functional offensive line either halfway through this season or next year, because you've got all these young guys. That's primarily in jest, but I do think that half their picks, right? I don't know off the top of my head how many picks Houston has, but half their picks on offensive linemen, you go get a tackle, you get a couple guards, you get a center, that's 4 guys. Tackle, 2 guards, and a center. That's half your picks. So I'm mainly joking, but I do think that it is their need, and it is their primary need by such a large margin that it would make sense to invest the majority of their resources in it.
I mean, I will be disappointed if they don't draft at least 2 offensive linemen in their first 4 picks or 5 picks. Take a couple meaningful swings and don't wait till the 6th and 7th round when they're really just taking flyers at that point. But anyway, looking forward, cap space, they're just over the cap. They're -5 million cap space. And we've already talked a ton about their needs at this point. Kind of our draft conversation bled into that and ways they could also address that in free agency. But don't expect much in free agency, I guess what I should say. It's kind of the same thing. Running back, maybe you go get a tight end, just offensive lineman. You're probably going to bring in another vet, interior defensive lineman, whether you bring, I'm blanking on his name, you literally just said it, Rankins.
Sheldon Rankins?
Yeah, Sheldon Rankins, whether you bring him back or go get someone else of that ilk. But it's just largely going to be depth signings. And then maybe a running back to, start or split carries with Woody Marks, or who knows, maybe Joe Mixon is healed and ready to rumble. But
whatever happened to the guy they had, the Florida guy who was electric his rookie year?
Damian Pierce.
Yeah, Damian Pierce.
He was pushed down the depth chart.
That's tough.
Behind Woody and
bro, he was getting drafted
Nick
so
Chubb.
high in fantasy the year after his rookie season. JP, thoughts on that free agency? You agree?
I mean, I wouldn't draft all the offensive linemen because I don't think they physically can, because I don't think they have the roster spots for it. Or even drafting 4. I think you just draft 2 of your first 3 picks. I think for running back, they should just draft a running back.
I mean, I'd love Le'Veon Moss or Jamari Taylor. We were looking at the list previously.
Running backs can hit from many different spots and many different rounds. I mean, Kyle guy was a 7th rounder this year.
Yeah.
Jaden Blue might end up starting for Dallas next year if they don't re-sign Javonte, and he was a later pick. So Woody was already a later pick, and he had a fine season for you. Have two of those younger backs, I think that'll work out fine. And I think you try Joe Mixon, no different than you try Tank Dell, because they have been productive for you in the past.
Sure.
So give them a chance to do it again. But I do think this is one of those teams that if they fix that offensive line hole, we haven't talked about it really at all in this primer. I do think Stroud is still a capable franchise quarterback and is their franchise quarterback and can lead them to where they want to go, which is to win a Super Bowl with the defense that they have. I think he's fully capable of that, as much as people have trashed him with the way he played in the 2 playoff games. He's won a playoff game in 3 straight years, and they have won a playoff game in 3 straight years. They've lost in the divisional round 3 straight years. I think they're right there they're a step away from being in the Super Bowl and being in that conversation, because they have the defense that they can do it, no different than how Seattle did it this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think me not even bringing up Stroud in the primer kind of voices my confidence in him, because I didn't even mention maybe you need to go get a quarterback,
Carson Beck.
Maybe you take a flyer late in the draft, because it just isn't a concern. And also, it really just is the offensive line. This is a bit of a more boring primer, because there's no grand or sneaky moves to be made. It largely is a run it back, and that can take me to my 2026 goal, and that's win 2 playoff games, which likely puts you in the conference championship game, which seems steep because they're not an overall elite team because of that offense. But I think that defense is elite enough, and you're going to be running it back with most of those guys, and hopefully the offense improves a little bit, maybe is a little healthier. You get the offensive line even just closer to league average. There's no reason they shouldn't expect to win multiple playoff games, or at least be in the position to win multiple playoff games, even if it doesn't come through. That's my goal.
Cool. I'll go ahead and I think I have Indianapolis. Is that correct?
You do.
I'll go ahead and put them up and then pull up my notes. Here we go. It's time to prime the Indianapolis Colts offseason, our offseason primer. We started off like we do with every team, talking about an MVP, a team MVP from this last season, and then an unsung MVP. My MVP is Jonathan Taylor. Now, there might be some causation versus correlation discussions here, but when he was cooking, the team was 8-2. So weeks 1 through 10, he was averaging over 113 yards per game, and they were, like I said, 8-2 through 10 games. And then weeks 12 through 18, they go 0-7, and he cuts that almost in half, down to 63.7 yards per game. Like I said, you can have a causation versus correlation discussion around that, but Jonathan Taylor was kind of the workhorse of that offense. I felt reminded of the Tennessee Titans with Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry, about how Derrick Henry made that offense look good in that year where the Titans were the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. And then once he starts to not play well, you realize that Ryan Tannehill wasn't doing all that by himself. It was play action and scheme and all that. I think Jonathan Taylor kind of gave Daniel Jones some of those same benefits. So that's my MVP. My unsung MVP. Hold on. Do y'all see this? Don't try not to read. You may have already read it, but what I have highlighted. Oh, can y'all tell me how you would pronounce that? Oh crap! There it is. The top thing right there. The editum.
I'm gonna forego trying because I couldn't begin to. Adibawore.
I've got it. You're close. I've got the phonetic right below it, so y'all may have accidentally read that. JP, do you want to take your stab at it before I try and do the phonetic pronunciation?
Aditamiwa Adibare.
Yeah, it's Aditamiwa Adibare, according to Pro Football Sports Reference or Pro whatever the website's called. That's the phonetic spelling. He's my unsung. He started 7 of the final 8 games this year, coming in for DeForest Buckner. Finished second on the team in sacks, and he was a 4th-round pick in 2023. So he's been in the league this was year 3 for him. Yes, year 3. So big for him to kind of start some games down the stretch and come in for DeForest Buckner. And hopefully, kind of earn himself more starting opportunities going forward. Like I
Sure.
said, he finished second on the team in sacks, I believe, behind is Leatu Latu, the Colts edge rusher? Yes, so he finished second behind him, I believe. So big season from him, but who would y'all have as MVP and the unsung MVP?
I mean, I'm totally good with Jonathan Taylor as the MVP. Don't really know who this guy is, but it seems like he's very deserving. One, because I don't really know who he is, so that fits
that is the goal.
The mold. And then, I mean, second on the team in sacks, wasn't a crazy high draft pick. You know, looking to maybe be part of the next wave. I'm fine with it. The LVP of the team has probably got to be Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, he did, unfortunately, not add a lot to the Indianapolis Colts season. Hopefully next year. JP, what do you got?
MVP, I'm fine with Jonathan Taylor. I also would have potentially said Leatu Latu. He had 3 picks as an edge rusher. He also had 8.5 sacks.
Totally fine with that, just because the name is also fire.
He had 12 TFLs, 20 quarterback hits. And then unsung, I would have done, you know him, but you may not know his name, Cameron Bynum.
Oh, yeah.
He had 4 picks this year, 81 tackles, which was 3rd on the team.
Sure.
Leader in celebrations.
Yeah. I saw him and was like, oh, he had a great season, but also he's not unknown. And maybe that's just our podcast that we know him very well, because you pointed out that he's like the celebration king of the NFL when it comes to turnover cellies. So I did see him, and he definitely does deserve a shout. But I was like, he's too known, I feel like, for this. But yeah, we can get it. So that's our, all the review we'll do of the 2025 season. We don't want to dwell on that because this video is about talking about the future.
We also got to get to coaching because I got to figure out who the heck Jim Bob Cooter is.
Dude, yeah, it's fire. So the Indianapolis Colts coaching staff has 2 fire names. So head coach Shane Steichen, not a fire name. Kind of, who is it? Do y'all ever watch John Boy?
No.
Randomly.
Okay. They do this thing where whenever they're doing segments, and they see a name, they'll go 3, 2, 1, and then all rate the name on a scale of 1 to 10. Shane Steichen, I feel, is like a 4, like not that great. But the next 2 names, the OC and the DC, are both. The OC is an 8. Jim Bob Cooter's a 10. Shane Steichen,
OC's like a 6.
Lou Anarumo.
You got a mismatch too. Anarumo's DC.
Oh, excuse me. Thank you. So, DC, Lou Anarumo, is going into year 2 with Indianapolis. Has some incredible weapons. That's kind of the thing that when I was trying to do the unsung player, if you look at that defensive depth chart, like all the starters, I feel like were big names and are big names. I'm gonna try and pull it up real quick. And like you think about the secondary with Sauce Gardner, with Charvarius Ward, with Cameron Bynum at safety, the edge. They've got Leatu Latu, but then they also interior have DeForest Buckner. It's just, it feels like almost an all-star. They've got Kwity Paye, a first-round pick. Jermaine Pratt, the guy who's been his entire... Like, these are so many names that I know. Kenny Moore. Like, and maybe that's because I just remember so much about this team from the preview we did last summer, but it's just a star-studded defense, I feel like. And some of them maybe are not in their primes anymore, but it's still a defense that's loaded with a lot of guys who have been really good in the past 5 years, and many are still really good right now. And so Lou Anarumo is the DC in charge of running that. And then the other side of the ball, you do have Jim Bob Cooter going to year 4. He's been there as long as Shane Steichen has. I think that name's a 10, Jim Bob Cooter. So shout out him for the name.
Sure.
But that's the coaching staff.
Shout out his parents.
That's the coaching staff. You've got 2 of them going to year 4 and then 1 of them going to year 2. In free agency, there's a lot of guys that are free agents that you're going to want to try and bring back. Braden Smith, your right tackle, was a starter this season. Daniel Jones, your starting quarterback. Kwity Paye, a starting edge rusher. Alec Pierce, a starting wide receiver. Jermaine Pratt, a starting linebacker. Nick Cross, a starting safety. Those are just the guys who are like confidently starters, and then you have some other guys who played starting snaps. So there's a lot of guys that you're going to try and bring back. As far as money they have in free agency, let's see, how much do they have?
$36 million.
$36 million. So they're going to have to try and bring back some of those guys, and we can have a conversation now about what the Colts going to do at quarterback. You've got Daniel Jones, who's coming back from an injury. But are they a team that's going to be like in the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes? I think that's it. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, just in passing, threw that out there as like, oh, that's a really good roster that is not locked in to anybody at quarterback right now. Do they run it back with Anthony Richardson? Do they say we've got the roster and the weapons around him that this is going to be the best chance he has to succeed? It's a former first-round pick.
I think they're running it with Riley Leonard before they're running it with Anthony Richardson.
I thought you were to say like that. You just could say they're running with Riley Leonard. That's a bold take. That's fair. That's fair. JP, what are your thoughts?
I think they're just bringing back Daniel Jones. I'd be pretty surprised if they didn't, even with him coming off an Achilles injury.
Makes him cheaper.
Yeah.
It would make him cheaper, and the way he played when they were 8-2 before the bye is, I think, good enough to say that he could lead you to the postseason. Their offense was really, really dynamic. Daniel Jones got hurt and became really hard to score. But I think what was lost in all of that was that their defense really kind of let them down for the last 6 weeks. Like giving up 38 to his C.J. Stroud in that offense in the final week of the year and letting Brock Purdy literally, it looked like he was playing Madden, and he went to go to practice and he clicked offense only. And he played them on Monday Night Football, and he just went up and down the field, and they scored 48 points on Indianapolis. Their defense kind of let them down in the second half against the Kansas City Chiefs. They couldn't get the stops, and their offense couldn't score either. So I do think like they're 2 games away from being back where they were and wanted to be, which was potentially winning the division and more importantly making the postseason. But they kind of just collapsed down the stretch. I think they'll bring back Daniel Jones and quickly run it back. I'd be interested for Aaron Rodgers. That'd be really, really, really neat. I think he'd be a fine fit there. I wonder how that relationship would be with Shane Steichen as a head coach who also is calling the plays.
Sure.
And Jim Bob Cooter, of course. Very important how his relationship with Aaron is. And then, but I do think like that team is a really good potentially fit for him, but it's a really good fit for any quarterback. They have the weapons. If they are to bring back Alec Pierce, they have Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman. They have the rookie Tyler Warren, who had an excellent year, and then Jonathan Taylor. That offensive line in Indianapolis has really never not been good as far as our football lives have been. So I do think it's an interesting fit for Aaron, but I would be shocked if it wasn't Daniel coming back next year. But just because that's more, you can sign him to a cheap contract and he's only 30 as opposed to 43, meaning he could also then continue to be your quarterback of the future.
Yeah.
Rather than Aaron and having to find another quarterback after next year.
Yeah, I just don't really see Aaron because I agree that Daniel Jones is the more long-term play, and Daniel Jones likely is going to just play better next year as well. Assuming he bounces back from that Achilles injury like semi-well. I mean, it's always a little iffy, but like I don't feel like there's much incentive to pick Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I also think it would be Daniel Jones. I just wanted to throw out the possibility because I do think there's a good chance.
Objectively,
I would not be surprised at all if Aaron Rodgers ends up on a contender who doesn't have a quarterback and he just goes in there and tries to be the quarterback of a team that's really good and doesn't necessarily need a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen to win games. So that list of free agents, so let's say they bring back Daniel Jones. I want y'all to each pick 2 guys that you would like prioritize. It's like, oh, we need to bring that guy back. On this list of free agents I've got right here, I think I already have the 2 that I would like prioritize. Now I'm not saying they can only bring back 2, but who would be the 2 you'd prioritize?
Braden Smith, right tackle, without a question.
Yep.
Agreed.
I think he's been very, very good for them, and I would then prioritize the next best player, which is Alec Pierce. I think you bring him back. I think he had a really, really good year, especially as he kind of came into his own in terms of what he was kind of expected to be which was a deep threat over the top
Yep.
to pair with a Michael Pittman who's supposed to be your physical threat. And I just don't think Michael Pittman is nearly good enough, as he's shown at least to this point, to be the only option at receiver. So I do think you prioritize those two guys, and you got the cap space to get both of them back. So those would be my two.
That's 100% where I'm at. I am a little surprised you didn't pick Blake Groupie as one year too. I know you have a big time affinity for him. So
I would go Braden Smith and Kwity Paye. But I do understand the Alec Pierce thing.
Kwity Paye, I mean, yeah, he was kind of my third, so I don't disagree there.
Don't hate that at all. All right, so we're all on the same page there.
Edge rusher matters.
Edge rusher does matter a whole lot. So that's free agency. Some of the stuff they'll have to look at, some of the ways they might address it. In the draft, they do not have a first-round pick. They traded that pick for Sauce Gardner. So with their first-round pick, they selected Sauce Gardner is what you can tell yourself and what I think is the best way to view it, because Sauce Gardner's still young. It's not like you wasted a pick on a guy who's not going to impact your team going forward. But they got Sauce Gardner with the first pick. At pick 47, I think I'll have them going defense. I think offensive line is sorted, provided you can bring back Braden Smith. Running back is sorted. I don't think they're drafting a quarterback. They're not in the phase of the build. The team is too good right now to try and draft a rookie quarterback. There's no need. And so you go defense. And I've got two guys listed, A.J. Halsey, a safety from LSU, and then D. Hunter, a defensive interior from Texas Tech. Those are a couple guys you can look at pick 47, at pick 78. Defense, again. Torian York, linebacker from Texas A&M. Yes, Gig'em, Jack. A&M legend, Torian York.
100%. 3-star, not a highly recruited guy. Just an Aggie through and through.
Yeah, I feel like you
took the opportunity and ran through it. Was a 3-year starter, and he's a true junior. So like legit came in, played 3 years, is bouncing. I'm not sure if I'd really feel great about drafting him though. If like my team was drafting him, comes in at like 5'10" is what he measured in at the senior. If he's at the Senior Bowl, is he a 4-year? Gosh, now I'm tripping. I think he's a 4-year starter.
I also don't. I feel like they changed it to where the Senior Bowl you don't actually be a senior, but I could be wrong about that. I feel like that's one of those things where they caved and people were mad. But
see, I think he's just a 3-year starter because him and Anthony Hill were like same class.
Yeah.
It was always like him versus Anthony Hill.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's an Aggie legend. 100%.
Neither here nor there. I feel like you haven't thrown out the Aggie legend title in a while, so I had to see if you were holding it on for something special. Other option, Darrell Jackson Jr., interior defensive lineman from Florida State. And then in the third round, at pick 113, yes, unfortunately, Jack is stealing my notes. Michael Taft, a safety from Texas. And this is where I threw out a couple names just because they fall here, quarterbacks. And I like one of them more than I like the other. And it's Carson Beck and Drew Aller. It's just
that's like your white trio right there. You put three
that
of
was
the whitest
unintentional. I promise
players.
That was unintentional. If they bring back Riley Leonard, I think it'd probably be on like a 2 or 3 year contract. JP, I don't think he's getting a 4 or 5.
Riley was a
excuse me, not Riley
rookie
Leonard.
this
Excuse me,
past year.
Daniel Jones, the other white quarterback.
Maybe 2 years.
I was thinking a 2 or 3 year contract. It would not be a 4 or 5. It would not be some sort of long term deal, just because of the injury and the inconsistency in his play, even at the Giants. So, 2 or 3 year contract. It depends on how you feel about Riley Leonard. It depends on how you feel about Anthony Richardson. But I just wanted to put those names down. Yeah, put those names in there because they both have former first overall pick hype around them, right? Carson Beck was expected to be the first overall pick in 2024.
He's the Heisman favorite.
Yeah, Heisman favorite. I think that's the right year. He was expected to be, everyone knows what year that was. I don't remember the number of that year. And then Drew Aller could have been QB2 last year had he come out, chose to return to college, go to Penn State.
Josh Allen 2.0.
Try and win a national championship and falls just short, going 6-7, losing a bowl game to Clemson, who has the other.
No, they won the bowl game. They were 7-6.
Excuse me,
but he didn't start. Grunkemeyer started.
That's right.
He didn't start like the back half of the season.
Still fell just short of a national championship.
I think he hurt his ego.
Yeah. Anyway,
broken pride was the cause of missing games.
Yeah. The piece that adds now would be Michael Taft. But if you're the Colts and you're trying to figure out potential quarterback of the future, long term. If you don't think it's Riley Leonard and you don't think it's Anthony Richardson, those are a couple names that you could draft in the 4th round, Carson Beck and Drew Aller. And then in the 5th round, that would be the 5th round. Harold Perkins Jr., a linebacker from LSU. It's very defensive heavy, and like I said, we kind of talked about it. The offense is well established with that offensive line, with the running back, with the wide receivers, tight end. Like, you figure out quarterback and you bring back Braden Smith and you feel really good about that offense. So I think defense heavy makes a lot of sense. Thoughts on the draft? You don't have to talk about every round, but the general takeaways. Would you agree that going heavy defense is a mistake, right move? What do you think?
I mean, I'm fine with it. Yeah, I mean, I am fine with it. It is like just so weird to like look at it and be like, the best player I'm getting from a draft is like AJ Halsey because you don't have a first.
No, you got
pick.
Sauce Gardner.
Who is really good at losing apparently.
I don't subscribe to that theory.
That you got Sauce Gardner.
I understand
the Eagles got AJ Brown with their 1st round pick in 20.
That way of thinking,
22.
but I don't subscribe to it
Okay.
because you. I mean, a 1st round pick you could get anybody.
But you didn't get anybody. You got Sauce Gardner.
You could get Micah Parsons. You could get the next. I mean, you could end up drafting like the next Emmanuel Forbes, but you can,
But you just drafted the next Sauce Gardner, which is Sauce Gardner.
Is Sauce Gardner overrated?
No.
He won. He won 2 games last year. His teams won 2 games last year. That's all I'm saying.
Right, we're having that conversation. What are y'all's thoughts on the draft, JP? I know. So you don't agree. So are you disappointed that your best player is AJ Halsey or D Hunter, or
No.
is the best player Carson Beck? Maybe.
I think maybe the best player is Harold Perkins or Drew Aller, the last 2 picks you mentioned. But that's just the college football video game in me. I think it's fine. It's such a like trading the 1st round pick and then for it to and then you still have your 1st round pick next year either, which is this is the first time I'm mentioning it, but it's something to think about for both Indianapolis this coming season. Is there's no reason to be bad. You should go and be competitive because you're still not going to be able to answer quarterback in the 1st round next year. But also, like, off topic, the Jets have 3 first-round picks in next year's draft, meaning they don't have to draft a quarterback this year. They can wait another year and have 3 chances at a quarterback next year with the first-round pick from the Cowboys and the first-round pick from Indianapolis.
And it's going to be a low. I've seen as many as 10 quarterbacks get drafted in the 1st round for next year. Because
next year's draft class is always better.
Yeah, I was about to say, because everyone who was supposed to be good this year was either bad or went back to school. So
Yeah.
Dante Moore, Lenore Sellers, both went back to school.
I do think when you're in this spot that you're looking for pieces that will develop, though, for the future, because you do have a lot of your placement already there. And so you're looking for guys that will develop under, whether you think Sauce Gardner is good or not, but him and Jafarius Ward, or will develop under an aging Cam Bynum or an aging DeForest Buckner, or if you went running back or receiver or offensive line, age under the veteran players that are already established there. So I think that's what you're prioritizing, unless you have a very, very clear need, is guys that will develop under those guys, and so they're ready to step in when those veterans are eventually free agents. And that'll be kind of the reality for Indianapolis the next year, where they go from this offseason at $36 million cap space, and right now they have $180 million in cap space for the following year. So I think that's where you prioritize.
Yeah. 2026 goals, I have win the AFC South. You were the front runner for that, and then Daniel Jones goes down to injury, and your offense loses its dynamicism. Dynamicism, right?
I do believe you're right.
Okay, cool.
Well done.
Just wanted to double check myself there. Check the dictionary. And then the defense, like JP said earlier, kind of disappoints down the stretch. So the goal is to get back and get in that same position and then finish the season. That's my goal. And then my second goal is to figure out quarterback. You bring back Daniel Jones on, I doubt it'd be a 1-year deal. I don't know that he would sign that, but a 2-year deal. And then if he plays poorly, with the supporting cast that he has, then you can start to hit the panic buttons and be like, wow, Daniel Jones has a great supporting cast and he's still not playing well. This is not the quarterback of the future. Or he does play well and he is the quarterback of the future. Or he goes down and Riley Leonard comes in and wins a Super Bowl and then everyone is happy.
I'd not be happy.
Well, I don't know why you're a Riley Leonard hater, but we don't have to get into that right now.
Well, just my team's not winning. So why would it be happy?
Okay, that's fair. But y'all could be in the Super Bowl. Y'all could lose to them in the Super Bowl.
I'd be even less happy.
Well, then y'all can go 0-17.
That would be crazy.
Okay. Anyway, man, you were just a complainer.
JP didn't put us on 0-17 watching the offseason primer, so I feel pretty good about not going 0-17.
Although, yeah, okay.
I think the Chargers are more likely to be 0-17.
Oh,
than
gosh.
Sure,
Good grief. We're just
let's be
lying
honest
now.
here.
What are your thoughts on the Indianapolis Colts 2026 goals? Is winning the AFC South a realistic goal? Or are the expectations too high if that's one thing you want to accomplish?
So much has been said every single year for like 3, I don't know, you could even go 5 straight years now since Andrew Luck's retirement of, oh, this roster's ready to win. Can we just figure out quarterback? Oh, this team's ready to win. Why can't we get out of our own way? Why can't Gardner Minshew complete the pass and the flat route? You go 9-8, 8-9, 8-9 your last 3 years. It is, I think, that's a fine goal to have, but I do think it's a, man, can we decide whether we want to be really, really darn good or just tank kind of thing? And I think that would be kind of the feeling. I think they have felt like for 3 straight years going into the season, they were due to finally kind of pop a little bit less so this past year because Daniel Jones was a little bit of a question mark. But they feel like they are ready to win, and yet they aren't winning and haven't been in the postseason in 3 straight years. Unlike Houston. Like Houston feels like they're ready to win, but they've won a playoff game every single year. Or even Jacksonville. Jacksonville's made the postseason and
won a playoff game.
Won the division and won a playoff game.
I remember it well.
So I do think they want to get out of that kind of rut because they have just been like the AFC South Pittsburgh Steelers every year.
I've been trying to cook up a Pittsburgh purgatory version, and all I can come up with right now is like maybe a Colts Castaways. I don't, Castaway Island. I don't know. I'll keep workshopping it. I can't think of any synonym for purgatory that starts with an I. Indianapolis Island. I don't know.
They've gone 6 straight years with a different quarterback. Phillip Rivers.
I did think it was funny when you said Andrew Luck 5 years ago, but it is 2026, so that was like 9 years ago now.
Yeah, you could even go back to
or maybe
the year
7.
Andrew Luck retires. It's Jacoby Brissett, then it's Phillip Rivers, then it's Carson Wentz, then Matt Ryan, then Gardner Minshew, then Anthony Richardson, and now this year Daniel Jones and Phillip Rivers again. So,
what a crop!
Yep,
I think it's a semi-realistic goal for them to win the division, but I think really their goal should just be make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, who cares how we get there? Let's just
That's
get
fair.
there.
That's fair.
They'd be so happy with that, I think. But
I like that more.
When they traded Sauce, I sat here and said this kind of signals that you really think you have the roster that can go win, and so you're trying to make that like final push move. And so I do think there's a good bit of pressure. Even though the QB situation is unknown, you've kind of put on yourself that there is pressure to perform and finally make the playoffs or win the division or do something. Like, just do something.
I think they're going to be in a spot where they're potentially the 4th favorite to win the division.
Yeah, it's a scary spot
not
to
from
be.
a Vegas odds, but from you ask people around. You ask 100 people Family Feud style who wins the division for the AFC South next year. More people might pick the Tennessee Titans.
No shot.
You might not.
I think so because, well, you're going to have some actual ball knowers
about them in a second, yeah,
that know about the week's schedule, and I think they're going to be a pretty popular pick to make this leap. And I just kind of think the Indianapolis Colts, and this is not great to say on the primer when the Colts fans are listening, like I think they've just in recent years kind of become a little forgettable because of what we just talked about. And so like the casual fan, I think is more likely to think of the Tennessee Titans before they think of the Indianapolis Colts.
You could get 3 people that say, oh, the Titans are the 4th to 1st team next year. And that is the reason they picked them. So.
Except we've got at least a dozen fantasy football players out there who like Jonathan Taylor winning the division. That's what's going to keep the Colts out of that.
But then just as many Well, I drafted Cam Ward first
Jonathan
overall
Taylor-
in my keeper league last
Jonathan
year.
Taylor fell out of the first round in fantasy football this year, before the season.
That was a
In the draft.
mistake.
He's getting old.
That was a mistake. He's drafted in 2021.
Exactly. These
Okay.
shelf lives, man, for running backs.
No, that is true.
short.
That is true. Well, I like that better. I like them making the playoffs better, just because the reality is they're in a division with the Texans, and the Texans could be fantastic next year
Yeah.
if they figure out that offensive line and
Jaguars
CJ
would
Stroud
be
plays well.
fantastic.
The Jaguars, there's a non-zero. There's a small chance that the Colts are in the division with two 12-win teams, 11-win teams next year.
I don't exactly know
They
who
already
they
were this year.
Were they?
13-win Jacksonville, 12-win Houston.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's not a hot take then. Well, then two 15-win teams. There's your hot take.
Wow.
Two 15-win teams.
You could say 14. Detroit and Minnesota had it,
Yeah.
and then Green Bay still made the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that the Colts making the playoffs in a division with the Jaguars and the Texans is something to be excited about, and is a reasonable goal.
Yeah, I'll just do something. That's my 2026 goal.
Just
do something of note.
All right, Jacksonville.
Sure.
You get to talk about your Shining Prince.
Oh, wait, hold on. I had a funny.
T-Law.
For
I-
future reference, JAX.
Yes. Well, some people do it different ways. I believe ESPN might do JAC, but I'm not positive.
This show is a JAX show.
All right, well, we can be a JAX show. I had something funny. Oh, what was it? Oh, remember earlier when you were talking about the Panthers trading their pick?
Mhm.
I just had a thought. I had a thought earlier and meant to drop it in the Panthers preview, but like the funniest TikTok of all time, would you be like, the Panthers pick is going to be used in a quarterback, and here's why.
And then it just
And then
pivots
you
to
go
them
into them
it.
trading it. Like that would be the wildest like hook ever.
I'm fine with that.
Um,
On top of the Panthers should draft Ty Simpson TikTok.
Sure.
we are not doing a Panthers should draft Ty Simpson
Why
TikTok.
not?
It might get us.
They
might,
have to draft a quarterback.
what?
Not in the first round.
You
but they
cannot
have
say
to.
they have. They just picked up their guy's 5th-year contract. Like since the
That's
season.
just 2 years.
If you could have a sit down one-on-one exclusive with Dave Canales,
Yeah.
and he had to be honest, you gave him some truth serum, and you go, how confident are you with Bryce Young moving forward? What do you think he says?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I think he's saying like a 6.
There is like no reason to not bring in any competition for Bryce Young. When he
You don't want to hurt his feelings.
when statistically he was he already showed that I could get
Think about all-
benched
think
by
about-
Andy Dalton and come back and still play it.
Yeah, who is-
as
who
the
is- who-
30th best quarterback in the NFL? No different than I was before.
Yeah, you can just draft someone in the 4th round and be like, oh,
I
he's
guess-
the backup.
You could just do the Aaron Rodgers. You're trying to piss off Bryce and get him to play his best because Aaron Rodgers played his best games when they drafted Jordan Love.
He did win the MVP back-to-back years, but that's a little bit different because Rodgers would be the number 1 quarterback in the league.
I mean, you're. I'm,
drafted 30th.
I'm just saying.
So you'll piss him off, and he'll go to like the 25th best quarterback statistically.
Yeah, it may improve like their defense. He goes from 32nd to
I still love
16th.
my going from 32nd to 15th and then 15th to -2.
It could happen.
The trend continues.
I just think
it's a
there's-
linear improvement.
there's no reason to not bring in competition.
Sure.
And signing
You don't
a
want to
quarterback
hurt
is-
his feelings.
Who
Wawa.
cares about his feelings?
Yeah,
I don't
Wawa.
care. I'm trolling.
I also noticed I perfectly match the Justin Herbert.
Oh, that's
I got
wild.
the Charger blue hoodie on.
That's crazy.
Like I feel like it may be a perfect match.
It might be. I'd have to get my little color code.
Yeah.
I'll look at the screenshot later and take the color, the hex pattern color code, whatever it is. Man, I wish I'd thought of that while we were doing the Panthers preview because that would have been so funny. Just throw it in there like, oh yeah,
Too late.
the Panthers pick will be used on a quarterback, and here's
Here's
why. All right, JP, you want to talk about the
JAX.
Jacksonville Jaguars? I don't remember.
Duval.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, well, the Jaguars had a great year. I think that's kind of
I disagree.
why so.
Not actually.
Yeah, they went 13-4, hosted that first-round playoff game. Unfortunately, lost to Josh Allen,
It happens, man.
and it's kind of sucks because it feels like they were one of the best teams in football, and they should feel that way. But they got a tough first-round matchup, and it didn't go their way. They were 11th in offensive yards per game and 11th in offensive, or in terms of defensive yards per game allowed. Then they were 6th in points per game and 8th in points per game allowed. So this was a team that was nearly top 10 in both yards per game and points per game offensively and defensively. So they were one of the best teams in football this year. They're at a kind of a tipping point when they lose a game to Davis Mills, who comes in for C.J. Stroud, and they're 5-4. And then they rattle off 8 wins in a row before losing that first-round playoff game. For my MVP this year, I went with the guy who was literally voted for MVP in Trevor Lawrence, a 4,000-yard passer. He finished 5th in MVP voting, and he ran for 9 touchdowns with 5 game-winning drives this year. I felt like he had a really incredible year, and a year where his wide receiver group and even his running back group was kind of in a flux all throughout the year. You remember they trade the first-round pick to get Travis Hunter. Oh, is he going to be a weapon offensively? You have Brian Thomas, who had an excellent rookie year and then isn't good this year. You trade for Jacoby Myers middle of the year to give yourself another weapon. You have Brenton Strange there, who has a issue year, and Travis Etienne repops, reemerges. Oh, and Parker Washington is your leading receiver, which, speaking of, he was my unsung hero. No one really knew who Parker Washington was before this year.
Yeah.
And he is their leading receiver, nearly 1,000-yard receiver, dynamic returner, multiple returning touchdowns this year. The other one would have been Devin Lloyd, who was a Pro Bowler and a second-team All-Pro linebacker for them. A defense that they brought back a ton of the pieces from last year and then really statistically improved, and Devin Lloyd was one of those pieces. His most famous play being his 97-yard pick six against Patrick Mahomes on Monday Night Football earlier this year, which was cinema. I don't know how he wasn't caught, because once he got to like the 45-yard line, he was running. I wouldn't even classify it as running. He was kind of like jogging.
And obviously I couldn't enough because he made it. But like, I feel like I could have caught him.
Yeah.
Like if I was 5 yards behind him, like, because you are right, he was gassed for like the last.
I say
half
this
of that.
with the reality that I may have done this, but having a first-round pick as your unknown MVP is wild.
Well, he wasn't his official one.
Oh yeah, but we can give him the shout, and I've probably done it, which is why I apologize beforehand. I do believe that I have had a first-round pick.
I mean, I definitely have.
But no, he definitely does deserve it. It was just funny to me. We're like, oh yeah, this former first-round pick, he's my unknown, my sleeper, sleeper MVP. But do continue. That's just funny.
Whatever you say, Colts fan. But Parker Washington, outside of him, did you guys have someone? Parker Washington was the official one. I just wanted to mention Devin Lloyd.
Yeah, no, I'm good with Parker Washington. He was a huge riser and a crucial one, considering the regression of Brian Thomas, the fact that the Travis Hunter thing didn't really work out how they wanted to year one. We were a little higher, or at least I was, on De'Ami Brown coming in free agency from Washington. He didn't really do anything. And so stepped in Parker Washington to fill the void. So I feel like he really deserves it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Jacksonville this year, they will play in Jacksonville still this year, but the following season they will be moving to Orlando so they can renovate the new stadium. So this is the final year of them playing in Jacksonville until that stadium is renovated. So Duval will have to get hyped for this year. The coaching changes, they did not get either their coordinators poached this offseason, which was kind of a concern. Grant Udinski, their offensive coordinator, interviewed for some head coaching positions. The only move they made is they moved on from their secondary coach, Ron Milas, and appointed a guy by the name of Matthew. And his name is spelled like Tyrann Mathieu, is how he spells his first name.
That's cool.
They appointed him as their new secondary coach. The Jaguars have no first-round pick. As I mentioned, they traded it for Travis Hunter last year. Their first pick is the latest first pick of any team in the NFL at 56th. That will be the first time that they come up and are on the clock unless they decide to trade up at some point. So it felt like it was kind of really hard to do a preview for them because who's available there at 56, who really kind of knows.
It's impossible.
In terms of what they would need, like they need safety help. That's kind of inarguable. Andrew Wingard is a safety for them who's going to be a free agent. They don't expect to re-sign him. And so maybe Caleb Downs falls to 56, joking, of course. But you have a pass rusher that you'd love to put next to Josh Hines Allen. because Trayvon Walker, former number 1 overall pick, really didn't have the year this year that you expected, coming off a year 2 years ago that was actually pretty solid. The other one is
I expected it.
Hater.
PFF saw it coming.
Colts fan.
PFF saw it coming. They said high sack with a low pass rush win rate is not a good combination.
Yeah, big time Colts fan.
I was a big time
interior
Colts fan
offensive
for 10 years.
Interior offensive line would have been the last one, but they obviously picking at 56. You don't expect much to fall at that point. So who really kind of knows where they'll be going? So I didn't really do any mock picks because I'm not even sure who's going to be there. I think this board will move around a ton because we haven't even had the NFL Combine or a single pro day yet. So for their cap space and contract decisions, they're in the negative. They have negative cap space at negative $11 million. Devin Lloyd, who I mentioned, is a key defensive piece who's going to be a free agent. Travis Etienne is a free agent. Greg Newsome, who they traded for midseason with a trade with Tyson Campbell, who they traded to Cleveland for Greg, is also a free agent. It feels like Devin Lloyd is going to be franchise tagged, which would put him at around $20 million. They already signed Cole Van Lanen to a 3-year, $51 million deal. He is their left tackle of the future. 2 years ago, they signed Walker Little, a former first-round pick, for them to a big extension. They also had Cam Robinson in the building. It doesn't feel like Walker Little is going to start for them anymore. And Cam Robinson, of course, he's been out of the building for a little bit. Cole Van Lanen will be their left tackle of the future with Trevor Lawrence. This is a team that also is going to need cap maneuvering because of that cap space. And I wonder how they're going to manage guys like Travis Etienne or even potentially Devin Lloyd or a Greg Newsome at corner. Because, I don't know, maybe you could argue with the way Bayshaw Tootin played in the playoff game, maybe he scored a touchdown, so maybe he's ready to play running back for them. But do you depart from, Trevor Lawrence's college buddy and Travis Etienne, who had an excellent season last year? I don't know. The free agency is going to be kind of tough for them. For a team that kind of rose above expectations this year in year one, Lee and Cohen, they don't really have the capital to build on it. So they're going to have to somehow find a way to sustain, and then on top of that, get the impact that they were expecting from guys that underperformed on an overperforming team. Guys like Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter, who were big draft capital invested in both of those players, and both had down years. Travis Hunter was injured, but also
wasn't great before he was injured.
Yeah, didn't perform to the level that you would expect for the former Heisman Trophy winner. So I say all that to say maybe a little bit of a doomy and gloomy kind of offseason for Jacksonville, and it's going to be a quiet one, I fully expect, except for the Devin Lloyd franchise tag conversation. And they may end up losing some guys. Like, I do think they probably have to let Travis Etienne walk to some degree, which they're not going to like with the year that he just had. But you can find running backs really kind of anywhere. With Lee and Cohen and his success in Tampa Bay with,
randos.
Or not necessarily randos, but
did
Sean
he make
Tucker
them?
and Rashad White.
Sean Tucker is not a rando. Legend of the Twitter verse.
Agreed. So I do think you can find performance from other guys, not just Travis Etienne, although you'd love to bring him back. What say you guys in terms of their offseason? I feel like I kind of...
You tied it up pretty well.
Yeah.
I'll just retouch on the Travis Etienne thing because I agree. I don't think they're going to be able to bring him back, which on the one hand is tough. I mean, he just came off an 1,100-yard season on the ground, 7 touchdowns, pretty solid. But just talking about positional value, it really is easy to 4th round. Mike Washington from Arkansas, 5th round. Jamari Taylor from Virginia, with Bashal Tutton, who has flashed this year, and I'm not expecting Bashal to be like this.
Saquon Barkley.
Correct, but someone that can give you legitimate oomph from the backfield, and you're not just giving him carries because you have to give someone carries because you genuinely like handing the ball off to him. I think he may just have to be a casualty of the tough cap situation, him being Travis Etienne.
Yeah, I would agree.
Well, looking into next year, early realistic goal for me is going to be find consistency in back-to-back seasons. This is a franchise that over the last, or I guess you could just say over the Trevor Lawrence tenure, has been up and down, very much so. Where first year they're 3-14 and are back at picking at number 1. The next year they win the division, win a playoff game. They're 9-8, and they do that on the coattails of a dynamic run down the end of the season. The following year, Trevor Lawrence year 3, they start the year, I think it was 8-3, and then finish 1-5, miss the postseason. Trevor Lawrence gets hurt towards the end of the year. Last year, Trevor was hurt, and they were 4-13. And then this year, they're flip the wins and losses. They go from 4-13 to 13-4 in year 1 of Liam Cohen. So find consistency in this franchise, because with the year they just had where they were again, like I said, top 10 defense and offense in both points per game and yards per game categories, if they can just find a way to be consistent in-house, I do think that this is a team that can be right there in terms of winning the division again. But I won't say that they should try to go win the division. I think they should try to be consistent throughout the course of an entire season and not just kind of hot and cold. Because you could even say with this year, they started 5-4 and then won 8 games in a row. I wish they could. I would more so like to see, as a Trevor Lawrence fan, as a Clemson Tiger fan, them go 2-1 and then 2-1 and then 2-1 and 2-1 throughout the year, and not just these hot and cold. Well, it's nice to peak at the end of the year. I'd rather not be in a position where I'm questioning whether or not we're making the postseason, where we start 0-3 like Houston Texans did, and then we rattle off all these wins.
Yeah.
I don't want to be put in those kinds of situations, because it could get ugly in-house, and a culture can very easily unravel. When I say consistent, I'm not asking them to go 13-4, but I do feel like don't have a regression to the mean where you won 4 games, won 13, and now you just win 8 or 9. Try to win 11.
Double digit again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm fine with that, because, realistically, if you're going to maintain consistency, you're going to win a good chunk of games, and so it's a solid goal.
Sounds good to me.
On to the last.
On to
the Titans. Potential AFC South winners in 2026, 2027.
Which one of us will pick them to win the AFC South?
Not Sanders, apparently.
Probably not me.
Probably not me either.
I know what I must do.
Yeah. 0-17. Did you have them on 0-17 watch this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Got some hate comments for that. I
It'd
already responded to them.
It'd be the first ever 0-17 to 17-0 switch we've seen.
And here's why.
Tennessee Titans had a season. They spent their first overall pick on Cam Ward. He comes in and has his rookie season. Does not get invited to the Pro Bowl, unlike other rookies, quarterbacks in the AFC. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Sure.
He's
washed.
Something to monitor going forward is he is not a Pro Bowl quarterback, and there are AFC rookies who are.
He only threw for 100 more yards than Bryce Young.
That's, on this podcast, that's not a great thing.
It's an indictment on both of them somehow.
Yeah, yes. But we're not here to talk about the negatives. We're here to talk about the offseason and some of the things you should be excited about. JP might talk about some of the negatives, but that's what he does best. So, MVPs. The MVP for the team, Jeffrey Simmons. This is a Mississippi State podcast, and so, of course, given the opportunity, I'm going to mention a Mississippi State guy, and Jeffrey Simmons also deserves it. He was tied for most sacks among interior defensive linemen and only played 15 games. I believe the guy he was tied with played 17, maybe 18 or 19. He played more games. So Jeffrey Simmons had a fantastic season from a production standpoint with 3 forced fumbles, first-team All-Pro, and this is where he really made a difference. He had an 81.5 receiving grade, according to PFF.
Huge.
With 1 reception for 1 touchdown and a 0% drop rate. So just keep that in mind.
So what I'm hearing is every time you throw in the ball, he's scoring a touchdown.
Correct.
So why have they not optimized this more?
He has, every single time he has caught the ball in his career, actually, has been a touchdown.
That's what I'm saying.
He's got 2 receptions for 3 yards and 2 touchdowns with no drops. So that's just something to keep in mind. That he is an offensive weapon, a unit. He's probably the best wide receiver Mississippi State's put in the NFL in a while. So that's just really cool as State fans. He's the team MVP, the unknown, the unsung MVP, Chimere DK, which that is not how I thought that was pronounced, but according to Pro Football Reference, it is. Cool. I really thought it'd been like Chimere Dyke. That's what I would have thought. But yeah, I know that's probably weird. But Chimere DK is what I'm going with. 4th round pick, finished 3rd on the team in receiving out of the slot and tied for team lead in touchdown receptions. So I think he was a rookie. I didn't put in my notes what year he was drafted. Yes, I thought he was a rookie.
He also did he make Pro Bowl or All Pro for return man or something like that?
He was a return
multiple
man.
Punt return touchdowns.
He actually had the most all-purpose yards this year.
Yeah,
sick.
So which includes returns.
He would have been my unknown as well, just kind of because of that. Special teams matters.
Yeah, it does absolutely.
I'm looking at you, Sean McVay.
Yeah. That's my unsung MVP, Chimere DK, a weapon on the special teams and also for a young quarterback, Cam Ward. Coaching. Tennessee Titans fired their head coach, and they bring in Robert Saleh, who is excellent as a DC. However, in his time as a head coach with the Jets, he went 20-36 and had 0 winning seasons.
Talking about assigning blame pie. I think we can give 7 of the slices to
we
the fact Jets was on his hat.
Yes, we
I'm
can
gonna put 8.
Fair enough.
We'll give 8
7.5.
We'll give 8 slices to of the pie. 8 of the 8 slices of the pie to the Jets, and then the pepperoni can be him.
Sure, yeah.
We'll do this.
He was the toppings.
Yeah, he was the toppings. All we're gonna give when we attribute the blame pie is the toppings. Everything else is the fact that he was at the Jets. They bring in Gus Bradley at DC. He follows Saleh from San Francisco. They were there last year together. And then an offensive coordinator, they bring in Brian Daboll. Dable, thank you. Not Dabble. Dable. Brian Dable. And I'm interested to hear y'all's thoughts on this. I don't like it. He's led 2 top 10 offenses, including 2020 and 2021 at Buffalo. And then outside of that, when he has been the head coach or offensive coordinator, his offense is ranked 25.1 in yards per game and 25.8 in points per game. He has had 2 seasons in the top 10 in offensive production, and every other year he's finished outside of that. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
What are his other years? Are they all just post-Buffalo?
No, pre-Buffalo and post-Buffalo. He's been an OC. I don't think I can pull it up. I don't think that takes into account his Alabama time. I believe it is just his NFL career. While I pull it up, JP, you made a face, so you clearly have thoughts.
Well, I was just
you
go
first,
say,
Jack.
I tend to be a pro Brian guy. Dable. Now you have me confused, Sanders.
It's Dable.
Just because of what he did in Buffalo. And then you could say, obviously, well, Josh Allen was there. Is he the person that made Josh Allen? Is it a bit of both? Probably a bit of both. But he's just a guy I feel like consensus around the NFL is that he is what's the word I'm looking for? He's a great offensive mind, and so I'm gonna lean on that consensus. Now I do think this is a make or break thing of if you can't make it work here, this is probably your last gasp of we're really giving you the car keys here. You have a young quarterback. We have a lot of money to spend. I imagine they're gonna go acquire weapons. We'll get to that later. But I like this fit a lot. I like this hire a lot. I think it makes a lot of sense.
I have a problem with what you said because when has he ever had a great quarterback outside of Buffalo and Alabama? And when he had the great quarterback with Buffalo and Alabama,
that's fair.
But
also, when
great
is he
years offensively?
But that also means that. So now we're just assuming that Cam Ward has to be great then, in order for the Titans to have success.
I think he can make Cam Ward great. Josh Allen wasn't fully refined in 2020 and 2021. He was just entering his powers. So I do think Brian has gotten a little bit too much of a bad rap for what happened in New York when he was dealing with starting Daniel Jones or starting Jake Fromm.
Whoa. Daniel Jones won a playoff game. Let's not forget.
Daniel Jones still thought. Also,
Tommy
what
DeVito.
What were the weapons there through a lot of those stretches?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been
you had Saquon for
Malik
a stretch,
Neighbors.
but Saquon tore his ACL that year. Malik was on the tail end, and Malik had a great season. Then Malik tears his ACL this past year.
I get that a lot of people. I feel like people love him as an offensive coordinator. He got interviews for the Buffalo head coaching job, I believe.
Yeah.
And once again, maybe it's he interviews well and he runs the building well and all that. But just like as far as performance goes, it's not like he's been at Cleveland. And I get he was not good at Cleveland.
Same thing where all 8 pieces of the pie goes to Cleveland there.
And then he goes to Miami. And once again, you can. But eventually, when a guy goes everywhere, it's like, well, it's not his fault. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. And then he has the 2 good seasons with Josh Allen, potentially the greatest quarterback in the NFL right now. And then he goes to the Giants, and it's like his offensive 24th, 32nd, 28th, 23rd. It's like, and now you're going to put him in charge of a year 2 quarterback and say, we know that you have had 2 good seasons offensively. You've done well with 1 quarterback and done badly with every other quarterback you've worked with, but we trust you to hit on this one. Like I
feel pretty good about it personally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jackson Dart had a pretty quality rookie season this past year. He may win Offensive Rookie of the Year for a guy drafted in the 2nd round.
Yeah.
And there was honestly a reason, Brian Dable potentially would have kept his job is because of potentially what he could have done with Jackson Dart in the future. Now they just didn't win enough games to make that tenable. But I'm sitting here pretty happy and pretty confident with it. I'm also just like too young to be like, what happened in 2011 in his 1 year with Miami? What happened with his 1 year with 2012 with Kansas City? Because like 1 year as an OC isn't really like a ton of runway.
Jamal Charles,
it's pre-Alex Smith.
So I just don't know how to like categorize those years as like really what happened. So based off what I know, I'm like, sure, I'm ready to give it a go. And then also the head coaching stuff, like Saleh, we've known him as to not be a good head coach, but he's a phenomenal DC. Maybe Dable just isn't cut out to be a head coach, and he'll get back to cracking in his OC ways.
Yeah, one thing to mention with Saleh is he said he's planning on calling the plays for
defense. Yeah,
for the defense for Tennessee. He said that was something he wishes he had done differently with the New York Jets. He felt like, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said that he felt like he was just a guy who was there to call timeouts and throw the challenge flag as the head coach for the Jets when he took calling the defense off of his plate. So he's going to return to calling plays, and so you have Dable and Saleh calling the plays, and these are 2 guys that interviewed for head coaching positions, and Saleh was the one that ended up getting it. So I do think like a lot of people are going to think of their coaching as a potential dynamic duo,
a perfect marriage,
a potential perfect marriage, a thing where the building is split and it's 2 different buildings, and it's Robert Saleh's defense, which we can all think of their San Francisco defenses that were great, and then Brian Dable's offense. I think that'll be how it's kind of viewed from the outside. I wonder how it'll be in-house, though.
Sure.
If there was one thing like Saleh did struggle with a little bit, and we placed all the blame pie on the New York Jets franchise as a whole, cursing him, but it didn't feel like he necessarily had the leadership and the juice. I think juice is the way to describe it that he has had with San Francisco as the defensive coordinator, where it feels like when he's watching and calling his defense in San Francisco, when they're making big plays, he's celebrating with them and he's flexing with them and
sure.
whatnot. Kind of like how D'Amico Ryans is with Houston and his defense. They celebrate together. In New York, it was just he would just sit there with his hands in his sweatshirt pockets, and it felt like I mean, people joked all the time felt like he was aging by the day and didn't look very happy. I wonder, I hope at least that is not something that it reoccurs with him being the head coach again.
And theoretically, him calling the play should help him be more involved,
yes.
And take more of a commanding role on game day. It is crazy to think, like, if he wasn't calling plays and when he was at the Jets not calling plays. Like, imagine having to be the DC for Robert Saleh. Like, the pressure and just, like, you just know that this, like, defensive mastermind is, like, watching your every move. It feels pretty daunting.
Yeah. Well, that'll be something really cool to see, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more as we get into like actual off-season decisions. But Brian Dable, excuse me. I think I'm combining like Dabo Swinney, so I'm like trying to like Brian Dabo. Anyway, Brian Dable is the OC there, and we'll talk about that going forward. free agency. They've got $104 million. That is first. A couple guys in-house that are free agents, due up for potential extensions or to let walk. Kevin Zeitler. He was their highest graded interior offensive lineman, but he's about to be 36, so he's a little bit older. Maybe you bring him back short term just to continue to try and shore up that offensive line until you can invest the draft stock and young talent necessary. Other guys, Chigakonkwo. I know how to say it. I just butchered it. Chigakonkwo led the team in receiving, so he's a big threat at tight end and a weapon that clearly Cam Ward is comfortable with, given that he led that team in receiving. Another guy on the defense, Sebastian Joseph Day. He's a free agent. And then finally, another big name, Arden Key. And a couple things that I have. Kevin Zeitler, like I said, I think you should try and bring back until you can get the draft stock invested in younger guys. Chigakonkwo, that's a weapon that Cam Ward has worked well with early. Bring him back. And then Sebastian Joseph Day and Arden Key, I'm not as keen on bringing back, especially Arden Key. His backup, Jalen Harrell, was second on the team on sacks. Was second on the team in sacks. And so I'm honestly down to let him play more. He's a younger guy. I had him pulled up just a second ago. I don't know exactly how old he is. He's not super old. Yeah, he's only 23, about to be 24. Drafted in the 7th round in 2024, but he's produced in the snaps that he's been given. So I don't necessarily see any reason to not try and give him opportunities. And maybe that means bringing back Arden Key for another year and just trying to ease Harrell into that more. But I think that maybe they've got something there given his production. Thoughts there? And then and we can get into, I want to get in y'all's thoughts on what they have in place, and then we'll talk about the $104 million in the draft and what else they need to do to really build the roster.
Well, that's the thing. It's like they don't really have much in place.
Correct.
Like, there's a reason it's a really bad roster. There's a reason they didn't win very many games. This is easily the shortest list of free agents leaving you've had, because when you don't have very many good players on your team, it means there's even less people to leave.
Yep.
So it's hard to know even where to start in terms of I'll let you obviously get into how you think they should spend the money, but one, there's a reason they have a lot of money because there's no one good for them to have paid so far except Jeffrey Simmons. But it's just you better spend it wisely because they could go quick, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see a reason to bring any of the guys back because this is not. You want guys that are Robert Saleh guys and guys that are Brian Dable guys. And maybe one of them ends up being that, but I wouldn't bring any of the past back because the past, especially the past 2 years, have been atrocious. So
yeah,
I think you're ready for new blood.
That's fair.
Spin Reeker.
They've got a lot of money to spend, and I'm not sure, like you said, there's a lot of things to address, and I think it'll actually be easier to talk about the draft first, and then y'all can kind of maybe throw out some suggestions for free agents you'd like them to target, because, dude, I cannot wait till we get to talk about just draft stuff and not the whole primer, because I had a lot of fun with this. I am now officially a proponent of the Tennessee Titans trading out of the 4th overall pick, and before we go any further, I'll explain why, and then y'all can share your thoughts. This team is not the 4th overall pick away from competing. This team is missing pieces in the backfield. This team is missing pieces in the offensive line. It's missing pieces in the wide receiver room. It's missing pieces in the defensive line, linebacker room, and secondary. That is every phase of the game that they're missing pieces. And drafting Ruben Bain 4th overall is not going to fix that. And so I have now decided that I think they should trade out and try and go find one of those teams that is one piece away. Maybe the Rams think that they are a Carnell Tate away.
Well, they can't do this. Then how the world are they going to take Taylon Green, 29th
yeah,
overall?
This is in a vacuum. I am not the Rams GM. I am the Titans GM. So maybe you go and find the Rams have 2 first-round picks. I had the list of who all had 2 first-round picks.
Jets have them as well, and the Cowboys.
The Cowboys. I don't think the Jets are a team that would be interested. Well, they don't have 2 first-round picks after this, so they couldn't trade up anyway. They could trade back. They could give us their 2nd and their 16th to pick 4th. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, good luck.
But the Rams are a team that is a Super Bowl contender and might consider themselves one player away. Other teams, like I said, yes, the Cowboys, they might consider themselves one player away. I doubt it, but that's just a possibility. the goal is to try and trade back, and maybe that's an early second rounder and a first rounder or 2 first rounders, but I just don't think the Titans are the 4th overall pick away from contending. So you trade back, and then in that teens range, which is where the Rams pick 13, Cowboys pick 20. So in that range, I'm looking at secondary. Jermod McCoy, if you were to get the Rams pick, Keldrick Falk is a possibility. Other guys, did I not? Yes, here it is. If you were to get the Cowboys pick, I'm looking at the Cowboys do also pick 12. I'm looking at once again, still same guys, the Tennessee cornerback, or once again, Cassius Howell makes another appearance. Jack, I know you don't love to see that, but what I tried to prioritize.
Yeah, I love Cassius Howell here.
Really? Because he doesn't have to play and be good right away?
Yeah, he can kind of, there's a little less pressure here.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Another guy I really like is Brandon, I don't know how to say his last name, Cisse maybe? Cisse. He's going to be 20.
Surely it's Cisse.
Cisse makes sense.
Cisse. Yeah. We'll go Cisse.
We're going to have to get on that one, though.
He's very young, only 20, and will still be 20 come draft night. So I like that pick a lot for them at the back end of the first round if they're able to trade back. Another guy I like early in the second round is Emmanuel Pregnon from Oregon, a guard. He's been really good. He's only allowed 1 sack as a 3 or 4 year starter across his career at Wyoming, USC, and then ending his career at Oregon. At the back end of round 2, Connor Liu. These are just I'm looking for offensive line, and then the outsides, wide receiver and cornerback, is where I'm really looking to hit it hard. In this mock draft, I had them take Emmanuel Pregnon, Connor Liu, Pat Coogan, Elijah Surratt, Hezekiah Massis from California. He's a cornerback. So it's the offensive trenches and then the outside. I did not have them addressing really interior defensive line at all through this mock draft. Actually, yeah, and then Cassius Howell's an edge rusher. So I do actually have them taking defensive line. So that's just kind of what I'm looking at primarily is offensive line and then outsides. And then that would leave you free to address maybe the middle of your defense, maybe a linebacker in free agency, maybe a complementary interior defensive lineman or a tight end in free agency. Maybe they like Cade Otton from Tampa Bay. That's just the first free agent tight end that came to mind. That's not me pushing for that. But what are y'all's thoughts? First of all, do y'all think that trading out of 4 overall is the right move, or do you think they should take somebody like a Reuben Bain or a Cornell Tate?
See, not the right move for me.
I wouldn't do it. I don't hate it. I think the bigger thing, I just don't know who's going to want to trade up to 4.
Yes,
what's really there to that is crazy appealing for someone to jump a ton of spots and give up a lot of draft capital to go get. Because there's not another quarterback.
No.
There's not even a star edge rusher, assuming Arvell Reese is already gone at 4.
Yeah.
I'd be more intrigued to see who would really pull the trigger.
If it did happen, it would be a draft night trade because somebody does end up falling to 4, and the Cowboys really like Arvell Reese, or they really
he reminds them of Micah Parsons.
Yeah, but he reminds them of somebody like that. So it would definitely be a draft night trade, because quarterbacks are not going to be here.
I think just in general, I'm not really the biggest proponent of trading back. That's just kind of my
crazy.
Personal philosophy. I'm not that's not a hard and fast rule because I liked when the Browns did it last year.
I was a proponent of the Titans trading out of 1st overall last year too, but that got shot down. In all of our mock drafts, I did my own mock drafts where they did that. But JP, you also would disagree?
Yeah, I don't know why you hesitate on drafting Cornell Tate at 4. Why wouldn't you pair the best receiver in the class with your number 1 overall pick quarterback, and then you can find other guys picking at 29. If you were to get that pick from the Rams, if you got the 13th and the 29th pick, how different is picking at 29 than picking at 35 where you're already originally picking?
Except
I know you're getting 2 players
you're getting
there,
both.
but I do think it's how really different is that necessarily? I don't know if you want to necessarily try and throw a bunch of darts at rookies. Go and get a known commodity, you would think, at least in Cornell Tate, and then get other known commodities in free agency.
Yeah.
and with all the cap space you have, and get guys that Saleh and Brian Dable like.
I mean, I'm pro Cardinal Tate there. It's maybe like 4, a couple spots high, but just like I'm such a big proponent of getting your theoretical franchise quarterback his like star weapon. I'm just never, ever gonna hate on that. You obviously don't want that to happen because you would love him to be there at 8.
I'll be shocked if he falls all the way to 8 because
Yeah.
I do think the Giants will pick him at 5.
See, the Giants already have their star boy.
What did this
Coming off an ACL though.
kind of A- on that draft?
True,
Tough.
true.
Yeah, we can agree to disagree there. I just think, like I said, I pushed it last year as like a good team building decision in my opinion to trade out of 1 overall because you're missing so much as far as roster goes that a quarterback's not going to fix that. And I think now, all right, you might think you have your quarterback, or you have your quarterback. You're still missing so much of that roster that having 2 first-round picks and adding 2 first-rounders to that roster, I think, is better than adding just 1.
If they were the number 1 overall pick, I'm fully behind it. I'm fully there for it, and they really should have been had Arizona not did what they did to allow them to win a game.
Falcons of the West,
the number 1 overall pick, had the Chiefs and Mahomes not gotten hurt. The Tennessee Titans are the number 1 overall pick.
Sure.
And had Shador not lost his battle with Cam Ward, they're the number 1 overall pick. So if they were there and the value is trading in to get Fernando Mendoza, I think it would make a ton of sense. But the only one that I thought the first example you gave made sense in terms of the LA trading up to draft Cardinal Tate at 4. But outside of that, I think the only other avenue is what you also mentioned with Arvo Reese falling to 4 and someone will love him.
Dallas trying to get him. Yeah, it's a long shot, and we can talk about the boring mock drafts in the future of where they just draft with their picks. I think it's still pretty similar of addressing offensive line and then weapons on the outside, both offensively and defensively. But that's what I've got. And then
the nice thing about having so many issues is like you look at a mock draft and you really like can't hate anything you're seeing.
True,
it's just like
true.
Yeah, I can see how that helps their team. Like, oh, okay, yeah.
The
Like
best player available is also just happens to be a position of need.
correct.
So
like, oh yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
yeah. Who knew that they needed a punter early in the second round? That's a position of need for the Titans this year.
Yeah.
Kicker is definitely a need.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're letting Joey Sly go. That should have been investigated, allowing him to continue to kick field goals for them because the dude, it felt like he would miss a kick every single week.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, and then for me, after that, the mock draft discussion, the goals for 2026, be better than last year, improve, right, add pieces that fit well in the puzzle, offensive line to give Cam more time, weapons for him to get the ball to, improve defensively, surround Jeffrey Simmons, be better. And then the second one, and clearly this is more of a me thing than a y'all thing, but my goal would be to feel really good about the coaching staff of Robert Saleh as head coach, given, once again, we can shift the blame pie to the Jets franchise. But he hasn't had a lot of success as a head coach.
This is true.
We want to feel good after year 1 of his Titans tenure, and then I want to feel good about Brian Daboll after year 1 of his Titans tenure. So those are my goals for 2026: be better and then feel good about the coaching staff. And y'all clearly already do feel good about the coaching staff. And I like the hires. As far as what was available, and I like Robert Saleh a lot. He's a fantastic defensive coordinator, but he just hasn't been good as a head coach. So I want him to show me him being good as a head coach.
I mean, I think that's a good goal, even if I feel better off rip than you do, just because so much can change in a year. I mean, I like the Aaron Glenn hire for the Jets, and now just based on how it went, even post game, I didn't expect them to win much this year, right? So, and that obviously came to fruition. But even just how bad they were, and pointing to the be better point you have up there, but then also just him in post game press conferences, him on the sidelines, just unease starts creeping into my heart and my brain about that hire, and I don't want to be there next year about Saleh or Daboll, and I also just don't want to be there about Cam Ward either. I think he also plays a piece into this in terms of looking at their long term future. I want to feel good about all 3 of those rolling into next year. Even if it doesn't equate to a lot more wins. So I do think this is a team that could take a jump in wins, partially because they won so few. It's not necessarily crazy hard to take a bit of a jump.
Easily.
Correct. And they'll have to look at your schedule. They have a ton of money to spend. this is one of the rosters that is probably going to change the most from drafted free agency, like when we roll around to do like our preseason previews and stuff.
Yeah.
Why can't they win the division?
Because they're in the division with the Jags and the Texans, and then also the Colts.
We've already seen C.J. Stroud, not a good quarterback.
Only in the playoffs.
Colts don't have a quarterback to start the season, and they have Sauce Gardner now, the ultimate tank commander. And the Jaguars are just like an injury away.
An injury to who? Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah.
Y'all don't trust Nick Mullins?
I don't know. Look, I
Personally
just think I said it not jokingly earlier because I do think this is a team that may, depending on how their offseason goes and the draft goes, be a team that's picked to go from 4th to 1st. And of the teams that are available, I feel like they are maybe 2nd for teams. Like Detroit, the Lions technically finished in 4th, but they were 9-8. I just don't think that counts as a 4th to 1st finish, in my opinion.
I mean, it does. They were 4th.
The other two options, though, are New York Giants and then the New Orleans Saints. Because are you going to pick the Jets to win the division?
Shedeur Sanders takes a big year 2 leap, and that defense pays out.
Are you going to pick the Browns to win the division? Are you going to pick the Raiders to win the division? What a shocking turn of events that would be for Sanders if he does that. Are you going to pick the Arizona Cardinals to win the division?
No. I think the Cardinals might be my least likely team to go 4th to 1st.
Wow, over the Jets?
Yeah, I'll say it.
Okay.
We'll ball.
The Jets just have to beat out the Bills and Patriots for 1st.
The Cardinals have to beat out the Seahawks and the 49ers and the Rams.
They finally got out from underneath Jonathan Gannon and Kyler Murray, the tyrannical rule.
But they're not even out from under Kyler Murray yet. He's still in the roster.
Yeah, but they will
depending on what they do with him, they're still going to
be
be under him.
They will be. There's no under Kyler Murray. He's too short.
True. I think this is a team that you're looking at maybe is that. I'm not going to say that right now, though. No way in crap.
It'd be great. I mean, we don't know their roster yet.
We don't know their roster. Cam Ward had 100 more passing yards than Bryce Young. He threw 15 passing touchdowns in starting 17 games. So he needs a ton, and they need a ton. But I do think it's a potential pick, and they've got a schedule that can help them with that, getting to play the Raiders and the Jets are the two fourth-place teams. So
when can we bet AFC South winner?
You could bet it right now.
What? Oh, my gosh. I kind of thought that they wouldn't give us odds until, like, offseason was over because, like, how do you make odds for a team when you don't know who's going to be on their roster?
I'll see if I can get FanDuel odds, but if I can't get that, I know I can get it offshore.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm getting plus money for the Titans to win it, I'm taking it. You think I'm getting plus money, Jack?
For the Titans to win the division?
Yeah, you think so?
They're not the favorite. You're getting plus money for pretty much nearly every team.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me see if I can think which team is not going to be plus money.
The New Orleans Saints.
No. No. I'll say the Ravens. I think the Ravens might be minus money. Is there a team that is minus money?
I think if there were one, it would be the Ravens.
Just because
I don't think they're going to be minus money.
Also, I'm going to go and take this graphic off and call the Tennessee Primer done.
Yeah.
AFC North, it'd be the Ravens. AFC South, I don't think the Texans are going to be minus money with the Jags in there. AFC East, Patriots and Bills, no one's going to be minus money. AFC West, Raiders are out. And then you got the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos.
Yeah, no way someone's minus money there.
No way. Unless it's the Chiefs.
Mahomes probably won't play like the first 5 weeks.
Doesn't matter. Okay, that's NFC North. No one there is minus money.
I can't find any odds.
Correct.
Surprisingly.
None odds? No odds? Go check. Did you check Kalshi? Did you check Kalshi?
I don't really want to go on that website.
You haven't even created an account yet? Yeah, you don't have to do that. I bet there's nobody who is actually minus odds.
Yeah, I don't think there is either.
And I'm also not surprised you can't find odds because I don't know why they would give you odds when we know literally nothing about it.
I think
to take your money.
Philly would be pretty close.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I hadn't got there yet running through my divisions. But you just said earlier that you think I don't know. We'll see. We'll get back with the gambling addiction.
The Commanders are improving from last year.
Where we won 5 games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hooray, 7 wins.
7 wins. Here we come.
Woo!
All right.
Shall we wrap it?
I think we can wrap it up.
Cool. We're 3 hours and 20 minutes in.
I was not expecting that.
I was. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. If you're still here, if you've listened this far, why don't you just go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, do a dance.
If you've listened this far and you are not subscribed, I don't know what kind of sicko you are.
Sometimes people forget, so I'm just reminding them.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. I was thinking more like someone who's like, oh, I'm just going to watch this 3 hour and 20-minute live stream, but I'm not subscribed.
And if you are this far, it probably means you enjoyed it, so you should come back next Tuesday.
Yeah.
For more primers, and we'll see y'all then.
And we'll probably review the Super Bowl.
And yeah, definitely review the Super Bowl, that too.
Because that's happening.
That'll be exciting.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see y'all then. Peace.
See ya.